The bottom of your screen is how you can get in touch with us. I meant to check to see if anybody's on our live stream yet today. I don't see it as of yet, but jump on in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's talk men's basketball. Let's get things started with the fourth-ranked Yellow Jackets of Randolph-Macon coming off a huge win against Hampden-Sydney in a game that actually counted for the conference race, as it were. Of course, they played earlier in their rivalry, and Hampden-Sydney got the win up in Ashland. So, of course, the Yellow Jackets returned the favor down in Hampden-Sydney's locale. Of course, how will that play out, and what does it all mean? Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of the Yellow Jackets. Josh Merkel joins us. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to join us. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Always love talking Randolph-Macon hoops.
Well, that's it, though. You don't want to talk about anything else, right? Just Randolph-Macon. You don't want to talk opponents or the conference or anything, right? That was a stipulation, I think, this time?
Whatever you want to talk about. But, yeah, talking hoops is always great. D3 hoops, let's do it.
It's interesting, Josh, because Hampden-Sydney's been playing so well, and the surprise is Shenandoah and Ferrum jumping out of the gate playing so well, too, and still kind of in the conference race, both of those teams. The way some other programs have been playing, Virginia Wesleyan came out pretty strong this season as well. You guys, to some degree, started flying a little under the radar, especially after a couple of losses early in the season. I'm assuming from your perspective, that's not all bad.
No, I mean, if I could have it my way, we'd stay under the radar all the way through the season. We're good with that. And I mean, 3 great young coaches that you just mentioned, really working at it and bringing in some great players for their teams. So I just think all of that is good for the league. Competition is great. Iron sharpens iron. It's allowing us to get better. We played some really tough teams early. And when you have the right group, you got the right guys on the bus that have a growth mindset, that want to learn, then we can really use those clips and the film to our advantage. And so that's where we are. We're trying to work at it every single day, try to be unattached from the outcomes, and love our group. Excited to see what we can continue to do.
Sorry, didn't have my mic on. I think we got very accustomed to this program with Buzz Anthony and the rest of this gang that took you guys all to a national title. I think maybe it's just me, but I watch the team. I know what's happening. I can see how it's all working out. I know what is working, especially after last year's team did so well as well. But I don't think I fully know the team, if that makes any sense. What's the cog? What are the keys? What is the balance of this unit that is working and maybe different than we've seen in the past?
Yeah, it starts with our senior class. I mean, those guys have been around for a lot of winning and seen a lot of basketball and played with a lot of great players that they've been able to learn from. I think everything starts with our warrior, our leader, Daniel Bangay, who ODAC tournament MVP last year, but a great passer, great defender. So I think he's averaging 6 assists over his last 8 games. Like, he really makes others better at both ends of the floor. Coble's a great shooter. Lance, a great shooter for us, also rebounds it. And then our backcourt with Jabril and Keyshawn Pulley, KP, those guys do a lot of things really well. They shoot, they cut, they can handle, they can make decisions. They're two-way players. They defend. And then a young group that's really, learning how to play to their strengths, playing well with other guys, Margod, Malcolm, Joe Bachman, Charlie Thornton. So we got a good mix of some older guys and younger guys and still working to come together as a team. And then always the defense is a big piece too.
Oh, defense has always been a hallmark, and I think we saw that in the Hampden-Sydney game when neither team scored 50 points. I think both teams showed off their defense. There were some who were commenting on social media, geez, this isn't top 10 teams. They're not hitting shots and they're not scoring a lot of points. And I saw it the other way around. I thought you guys showed off that both of your teams know each other very well, certainly knew how to attack the game, and to some ways, and I mean this with actually no ill, you made it ugly. Like, you made sure that this game wasn't going to be clean.
Yeah, it was not the prettiest game, especially second half. And but yeah, I mean, those people were right though. We didn't score. Neither team scored very well. It was just one of those games. And but I think there's a lot to learn from it on both ends of the floor. It'll make both of us better if we're fortunate to be playing tournament basketball. then it can help prepare us down the road for a lot of different things. And we'll learn some stuff and see if we can apply it next time.
What was the difference between this game and the previous game? Previous game with them, I should say.
Yeah, neither team scored at a high clip in that first game either. I mean, one difference, Keyshawn Pulley didn't play in the first game. He's obviously a big piece for us. I don't know, we're probably a little more comfortable in our roles and played some different guys than we did in that first game. Yeah, I mean, Sydney was far superior to us at that time. That's one thing. And maybe we're a little bit better than we were at that time.
I think the scary thing is you guys started the season actually 1-2, losing to Virginia Wesleyan and Christopher Newport. Then you picked up that loss against Hamden Sydney in the early part of December. You haven't lost since, and you've been putting some pretty good teams away, like Harrisburg, 82-63, Roanoke, 85-57. Guilford was a close game as expected at their place. And Washington Lee, by the way, 10-point game against a team who certainly knows you well. Are you guys, I know you're playing better than the first half. You're playing better than the first third, playing better than the first quarter. But can you guys still improve?
For sure. Yeah, if you watched us defensively last night, we went from, playing decent against Sydney to not being able to guard W&L, and credit to Chris and his group. But we couldn't guard those guys very well. And with the youth that we have, just you got to work against slippage too. Like maybe you do one thing well on a Saturday, but you got to get it done again on that Wednesday. And so fighting to get better, but also not having slippage in certain habits, especially at the defensive end, is going to be huge. But I believe at this time of year, what's going to separate teams are those teams that continue to fight to get better versus maintaining the status quo. And I like to think we can get there, but we're going to have to work at it. And it's not an easy process. Sometimes you just want to get to the end and get to the fun stuff, but you gotta put your feet where you are, because this is the fun stuff, the preparation and the anticipation of what's to come.
What's interesting, you talk about the youth. You have a lot of freshmen on this team, a good number of sophomores, a handful, just 3 seniors, 2 juniors by class designation. You're led by 2 sophomores. The scoring, at least, is led by 2 sophomores in Jabril Robinson and Keyshawn Pulley. Averaging both in double figures. Robinson at nearly 15, Pulley at 13 a game. They don't pull a whole host of rebounds down. They leave that for Daniel. Was it Benge?
Benge.
Benge. I had a feeling it was Bond, but I just said it wrong as it came out of my mouth. He's got 8.5 boards per contest, which is obviously really key for this team. But what is it about that sophomore duo that is working so darn well for pretty much everyone?
Yeah, they make others better. Super high IQ guys, Dave. I mean, I would put them at number 3 and 4 of guys that I've ever coached, just slightly behind a Buzz and Miles. Those guys were really good, but they understand the game, when to score, when to pass. Like I said, they can make others better by throwing passes, by hunting the paint, by getting quality looks for some other guys. Super unselfish. They score, but they're not out hunting. They're about winning. They both are really good defenders defensively for us, not just against their man, but can cover up and make some plays for others as well. Like I said, not specialists. They can drive, they can pass, they can shoot, they can cut. And I think that makes them hard to guard, especially with good passers around them. Like Daniel can find those guys when they're making some cuts. So it's tough. Some guys are very good with the ball. Those guys are good both on and off the ball. And but still a lot of room for those guys to keep getting better. So we'll see if we can keep working at it.
You also have some really good shooters, especially from outside. Will Coble comes to mind. Lance Johnson, of course. The 2 guys you mentioned shoot pretty well, too, and Robinson and Pulley. That's a lot of firepower from the outside.
Yeah, and we've got some other guys. Even maybe the numbers don't show it, but Vincent Payne, Charlie Thornton, some guys are coming along. And again, like I said, that senior class, those guys have been around, a lot of winning, a lot of good players. And we want that ball to move. We want to get that ball in player movement. When we're doing those things, we can get those high-quality looks. I'm excited for those seniors to see how we can finish things up.
Last year, I know, kind of ended on a thud when Oswego came in and said, well, this is a lovely place you have here. Winning streak, you say. We know nothing of this, and ended it. on the home floor in the Sweet 16. How much did you guys lick the wounds? And then at what point did you turn the corner? And how much is that impacting anything right now?
Yeah, credit to Oswego. I mean, Jason and his team were awesome that day. I would say I don't even think we played bad. I think they played really, really well in our building, got a big lead. We fought like crazy to come back. I did at the time. I thought this can be really part of the push that this young group needs to fight to have a postseason, a spring, a summer, a fall, to learn from and get better from. And although it didn't necessarily show up right away because we did have 8 freshmen that weren't a part of that loss, I think some seeds were being planted. Like Jabril stayed around all summer and certainly improved his game. KP had surgery, so he wasn't able to work out as much. But yeah, anytime you lose and your season ends, I think that game, at least as a coach, it sticks with me. I mean, every loss that has ended the season, I can tell you pretty vividly some plays from that game. So I think if you don't lick the wounds, then it doesn't matter enough to you, but you also got to, just get up and do the work. You got to pick yourself up off the mat and go to work and get better, get better.
This ODAC race, we've talked a lot this year about just how good and difficult. I know the ODAC's been tough in the past. For starters, how many teams you got to play, and thus what we call the ODAC model in terms of scheduling with the 2/3 double and 1/3 singles offset. With who you play. But again, we mentioned Shenandoah came in playing really well into conference play. Ferrum did as well. Unfortunately, gotten beaten up a little bit, 6-7 and 5-8 respectively. But still, both teams at around 15 wins this season. WNL we knew was going to be good. Bridgewater now has come out of kind of the pack, surprising some people. They're sitting in 4th place, well, tie for 4th with WNL at 8-5, 15-7. But just for everybody out there, Randolph-Macon 19 overall wins, Hampton-Sydney 20, Guilford 20, Bridgewater 15, Washington-Lee 14, Virginia Wesleyan 16, Roanoke 14, Shenandoah 15, Ferrum 14. And there's 4 teams left we haven't talked about. This feels tougher than ever.
Amen. Just a lot of quality coaching, I would say, that and recruiting. I think guys are really getting after it, bringing in good players. There's a lot of good players out there. We got the COVID 5th year. That's benefited some teams. I mean, Valwez has an injury, but if Amari doesn't tear his ACL, they have more than 16 wins. I mean, he's an amazing coach. He's done a great job. For them to still be fighting too is a testament to the group that he has and the coaching job that he's done. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I think Ferrum's super talented and well coached. And I mean, think about for Washington and Lee to be the 4th best team in our league, and the top 3 teams are all in the top 10. Well, everybody in the ODAC. It's just a tough league night in and night out, but it can get you better.
If I have this right, it's a 10-team conference tournament, right? It starts at 10, and it gets whittled down to 8 for Salem, right?
Correct.
And I think if I have it right, men are Thursday, Saturday, Sunday this year, right?
Correct.
So the advantage, you get at least one day off. It also pays to be in the top 6. So you're not playing the extra game. Obviously, you're in good shape there too. But how are you preparing for Salem? Because I think a lot of people look at it as fun as that tournament is. You all get beat up coming out of it.
Yeah.
Into the NCAA tournament. Now, you guys bucked that, granted, on a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule to win the championship 2 seasons ago, the national championship. But how do you guys kind of deal with that tournament and what its makeup is so that you're not gassed the next week?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dave. I still, go back and forth with what works best there. I think it helps to have some depth and to have multiple guys that you trust at that time of year. I think that's huge, and that's still something we're really working hard to get to. There's not, I don't know. It's like, then you take it one game at a time. You hope that adrenaline takes over some and that guys find the gas in the tank for that last game. If you're fortunate to even be in that game, I think that's what it is. You get to that final day and you just get to enjoy playing on a Sunday. But up until then, let's just I don't know. We'll worry about Salem when we get down there. For now, we got a big time game Saturday against Ferrum, and try and stay healthy and try and get better today, tomorrow, before we go into that game is kind of my focus.
It sounds strange, but I was backing up into the current spot. Obviously, you have a handful of games left, 3 left. You're at home against Ferrum, then on the road against Shenandoah, at home against WNL. Not an easy stretch, because you got to figure Ferrum and Shenandoah are ready to come gunning for you. You did beat Shenandoah unmercifully by 40 last time you saw them at your place. Ferrum, I don't think you've... Oh, no, you did play them earlier. A narrow win by 2 at their place. And, of course, WNL, you just saw them, as we mentioned, winning by 10. As you say, you don't want to look past these guys. You want to make sure you're kind of on task. What's the message with the team right now?
Oh, we'll watch the film and work on closing gaps today. But yeah, I mean, the message would be, hey, Ferrum, was a buzzer beater away from sending us home with a loss. Like clearly, they're confident. They know they can beat us, and we've got to do a lot of things better than we did the first time. So, can we do that? Can we apply that? Can we do that under pressure? Those are the things to be working on. Always exciting to see the growth from the first time you played them, and just what type of adjustments they're going to make too, and are we ready to to adjust to theirs or make our own that can make a difference in that game.
What does it mean to be 4th ranked now, to move back into the top 5 nationally?
Not a whole lot to me, Dave, as you know. I think that's great for the fans, for the student body, for the alums. Only ranking that really matters is the one at the end of the year. And for us, ranking has never been a part of our goals. Our goal is to, play as many games as we can and find a way to win that last one. And, pretty much as simple as that. So the ranking stuff is, we leave that to the others. We can't really control that stuff either. Just trying to enjoy the process of getting better.
Overall, as an athletic department, I think it's always been a competitive athletic department. You've always had teams who've had their moments of glory, whether it be women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, one of the soccer programs, baseball, or whatever, has kind of shown signs, but have never really made a big splash. You guys won a national championship 2 seasons ago. Football on the doorstep of getting to Salem for the Stag Bowl. There seems to be like things have gone up a level a little bit. A, do you think you guys all have helped create that kind of atmosphere? And B, what is the magic sauce right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball, softball too, especially with those coaches. I think it's great coaching, but take it back. Minus myself, I'm not talking about me when I talk about those other programs. But I do think it starts with the leadership and then getting the right people on the bus. We got some committed student athletes. I see it all the time. The discipline that football program has, and how they do it day after day, year round. It's impressive, and I think other athletes can watch and see and be inspired by the other athletes and the work that they're putting in. And that starts again with that culture of work, of consistency. It starts with leadership is what I would say, getting the right people on the bus, the right kids that really want to make an impact and have a career that matters.
And some nice new updates to some facilities certainly helps.
For sure. Yeah.
Do you guys wish you could update yours, or is yours unique enough with the atmosphere that it's great just the way it is?
Great the way it is. We do have a big time new locker room that's as good as anywhere that you will go. And I would say it's a great classroom for us, a great film room in there. And we feel very fortunate, a little spoiled to have that right now.
Sometimes behind the scenes stuff's more important than what we all see.
Yeah, I love Crenshaw. I think it's a great. We got a great tradition, and we got 6 hoops. It's a great classroom for guys to get better. A lot of space, so 0 complaints. And again, but love that film room.
Yeah, I hear you there. Hey, I really appreciate your time, Josh. Behind the scenes, folks, Josh and I have been working on this because we're both family men, and sometimes we can't always find the perfect time for either of us to get together. So, Josh, I really appreciate you finding some time today. Daughter's upstairs homesick. When I heard that was going to happen, I thought we were screwed today. So I get the pain. Hey, as always, we give the, and by the way, I say home sick. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
just like you said, Dave, thanks for making this work. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for all the work that you do and shining the light on Division III. It's a great product. We got great student athletes and coaching. And I just love that you continue to, bring that attention to others. Anybody that hasn't seen a game's got to see a game, and appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. You take care of yourself. Good luck the rest of the season. I know we'll catch up and enjoy it in the least.
Sounds great, Dave. Take care.
Take care. Josh Merkel joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with him and the Yellow Jackets of Randolph-Macon. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll shift gears, talk women's basketball, head to Illinois. Talk to the one who's ruining the CCIW party for Milliken and Illinois Wesleyan. It's the Carroll women's basketball team. Come up here on Hoopsville. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro.
That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit nabc.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's nabc.com or NABC1927 on social media. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. On this Thursday, midday supersized edition. If you're on the East Coast or the middle of the country, maybe you're grabbing lunch with us. Appreciate that. If you're on the West Coast, maybe you're getting brunch. Remember the whole brunch at Wimbledon thing? Yeah, maybe you're doing that. I used to say that all the time. McDaniel women's basketball had a player from Melbourne. I used to talk about the fact that their family was most likely having brunch while watching us play a game the day before. It's a mind thing. Anyway. Let's talk women's basketball. One of the teams that is certainly mixing things up, to say the least, in the CCIW are the Carroll Pioneers, picked third, thanks, Coach, for their standings to see where they would fit in the race. They are sitting now atop the race in a tie with Illinois Wesleyan, a game up on Milliken. All three teams are 18-4, and if you're wondering, Illinois Wesleyan and Carroll matchup, unfortunately, it goes to Illinois Wesleyan. So Carroll's got a little bit of work here to see if they can lock up the number 1 seed in the conference race. And joining us to talk all about it on a camera that is not flickering, it's our feed. You're just going to have to deal with it. It's Lindsay Schultz joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Coach, appreciate you joining us. Sorry, everybody, for the flickering, but you're going to have to deal. Coach, first and foremost, as I mentioned, and thanks to your assistance on that, you were picked third. You're technically in the race, but I get this feeling nobody thought you'd be sitting on top and kind of ruining the days of the Titans and Milliken as well, the Big Blue.
Yeah, I think people were surprised at how well we've played during the conference play so far. I think that's because we're still pretty young. And so when you have some youth, you never know how they're going to perform. Our 3 leading scorers, one's a junior, and 2 are sophomores. So I thought we returned good pieces this year that could obviously put us at the top of the conference, but it kind of also was going to depend on how those players developed and their maturity as the year went on.
How has that developed? How has this team gelled and conformed? Because if we look back at the start of the season, 3 straight wins, then you ended up losing 3 of the next 5. So at one point, you're sitting 5-3 on the season with losses to Whitewater, Chicago in overtime, and a loss to Illinois Wesleyan, which we mentioned earlier. But after that stretch, you got rolling, and it included an overtime win over Milliken. Your next loss wasn't until late January against Illinois Wesleyan. So how has the team gelled? How have things come together?
Yeah, and when you talk about those 3 losses early, I thought it was really important for us to play ranked teams right off the bat to try to get that experience of what it's going to be like to play in our conference. So you talk about Whitewater. When we played them, they were 4 in the country. When we played Chicago, they were 13th in the country, to try to get us ready for that conference season. So I felt like in those games we competed well, but we just didn't have the confidence to make the plays at the end to kind of get us over that hump to get the W. And then as we went, I think the big turnaround for us was when we got that win against Milliken in overtime. Because again, we had been battling with ranked teams back and forth. We, maybe didn't make some of the plays in those games, those early losses at the end. And I think that game, we had multiple players step up and make plays, and to get an overtime win against a ranked team. From there, I just think our confidence took off. So I think that helped with our maturity, and to just kind of be, very believe that we can make those plays at the end, and that we're going to come out on top.
Well, that belief certainly is working well, because you're rolling along, as we mentioned. Since the loss to Illinois Wesleyan, you've only lost to Illinois. So if you want to spin it another way, since your loss on November 21st against Chicago, you've only lost twice to Illinois Wesleyan. What is it about the Titans that seems to have your number? The first go-around being a close 6-point game at their place, the second go-around being a close 4-point game at your place.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, both games were really close. I felt like in the fourth quarter, when we needed to make plays, we ran out a little bit of a gas. And that's kudos to them. Illinois Wesleyan is high tempo, tough team. You got to handle their press. I think when, the second time we played them in the first half, we handled it much better. And then I think some fatigue set in the second half. And then I thought we came up short on being able to make some of those plays. And I think some of it has to do with fatigue and getting used to just breaking the press to score, and maybe throwing some more kids in the rotation early on.
You got a force to be reckoned with one of your players, to say the least. She's an honorable mention All-American last season, Olivia Rangel, right?
Rangel, yes.
Yeah, I was working on it earlier. Want to make sure I got that right. 17th player in program history to score 1,000 points. Reached the milestone against Carthage. I'm reading your SID's notes. I really appreciate him for this assist. Second in the CCIW in scoring right now at about 19 points a game. She has been a student athlete of the week 3 times in the conference, been named national team of the week on 2 occasions at D3 Hoops. A handful of players who have had triple doubles this season. I know it starts with her. We talk about the rest of the team. We'll talk about some of the other individuals, but give me a sense of what Olivia brings to the table.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when Olivia came in as a freshman, I mean, obviously when we recruited her, we saw a lot of potential, but I told her the best players do everything. And I really think from that point on, I mean, as a freshman, she was first team all conference in the CCIW. Last year, she was first team all conference, honorable mention All-American. And I think the great thing about Olivia is she makes plays. I think she leads the conference in assists. If not, she's second. When we need big plays and we need scores down the stretch, she can make those plays. She can score. She gets steals. She gets rebounds. Like every night, her stat line is stuffed, and it's not just with points. But I do think she has that kind of big time mentality where like no moment is too big for her. So like at the end of the game, she's the type of kid that wants the ball to make plays, and has proven for us that she does a really good job of doing that.
She's not the only one. Obviously, you got to have a couple of players who are working to make this work, because otherwise she gets all the attention and you guys are just sitting there going, well, this is fun. Right. We're not going to beat anybody if they're just going to double and triple and quadruple team her. Emily Wisner ranks second, believe it or not, everybody in Division III in three-point percentage, 483 from beyond the arc. That's a heck of a weapon to have at that shooting percentage, considering she's got to be getting a lot of defensive attention.
Yeah, no, she is shot. I mean, I think early in the non-conference and when we lost some of those games, like she was still trying to find her stride. She wasn't shooting quite as well. But Emily's the type of kid that puts a ton of time in the gym. Like she's in the gym outside of practice multiple times a week. And I think since we've started conference, I think the stat, like in conference, she's like 55% from 3 in our conference games. And so when you have someone like that can stretch the defense, that, you know, I mean, everybody, they have to know where she is. She hits big shots. I mean, when we played the last time at Milliken, you know, she hit big shots. She was just kind of like, no, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to score. And then she's learned to play off her shot. So yeah, she can knock down the 3, but it sets her up for the drive and going to the basket. She shoots a good percentage from 2 as well. And she's a really good free throw shooter.
So what you're saying is good luck. She's going to get you in every possible way. You can foul her. She's going to get her points at the line. You can stop her from outside. She's going to get her points from inside. If you're going to stop her from inside, she's just going to step outside. And oh, by the way, if she really wants to, she passes it off to Rangel.
Yeah. I mean, she has been really efficient scoring for us. And I think, you know, when you talk about like pick third or, you know, that we were young, you know, she had a good freshman year, but she put a lot of time in the summer and she came back this year and she's just been so efficient for us on the offensive end. And it has made a huge difference.
By the way, added notes on Rangel, by the way. She's 21st in assists per game, 36th in scoring, and 29th in field goals made this season. The team as a whole, you're second in three-point shooting. Of course you are, because you got one shooter who's shooting 55% from beyond the arc in conference games. But everyone's got to step it up. You're only 38% as a team. I'm joking. By the way, I watched one of those other really good shooting teams in Gettysburg, so I know what that's like. Ranked third in assists per game at nearly 19, fifth in field goal percentage at 48%. Scoring offense is ninth best in the country at 80%, 23rd in margin at 18.5. Is this an offensive team? And that's all that we're seeing there? Or is this also a defensive team, and that's why the spread? What do we make of seeing all these great offensive numbers, but then also seeing such a difference in offense and defense, at least points allowed?
Yeah. So, you know, my philosophy as a coach is I'm a defensive coach. This team that we have this year is an offensive team. So we've kind of gone with it. so we start off, we focus on our defense. And then as we went, we saw that, I mean, this is the best since I've been at Carroll. This is the best offensive team we had with all the different weapons. We've been really efficient. And so we've kind of changed, not changed who we are, but realized that, in prior years, we would press because we'd have to create scoring. Now we press, we still press, but if it's not creating scoring or we don't feel like we have to, we can just, play half court defense and just work on getting stops. And I think in the last few weeks, we've come on much better defensively. So whereas we started out, when we started to go on our winning streak back in December, we were winning based on our offense, not our defense. We were just outscoring teams. Whereas now I feel like our players have really locked in on our defense and have taken pride in getting stops. Last night, we only allowed 39 points. And so I feel like that piece is now coming together later in the season.
It's pretty impressive. You're sitting in, as we said, a tie for first place, a game up on Milliken. Technically, because of the 2 wins, Illinois Wesleyan has you on the tiebreaker, so you're going to have to separate yourself if you want first. But more importantly, it's really about finishing top 2, right? Because you'll get a bye. Right. Top 6 make the quarterfinals for the tournament. So I think I mean, it'd be nice to win the regular season. It'd be nice to be the top dog, but I think it means more to make sure you're top 2, right?
Well, yeah, we definitely want the bye. I think the bye in the conference tournament is a huge advantage. Just obviously you get more time to prep, you get a day of rest, an extra day of rest if you take it, and just more time to prepare for the semis. So yes, I mean, definitely we want to, finish in the top 2 and get that bye going into the tournament.
The trick with this, though, is your next 3 opponents are all going to be fighting to try and stay in the top 6.
Correct.
So it's not and listen, any team's going to come after you because they're going to want to knock off the top dog anyway. But you're dealing with now teams who are desperate to stay in the top 6 and try and stay alive. That's not easy. How do you approach these final 3 games against North Park, Elmhurst, and Augustana, the first 2 being on the road, besides, we know, taking 1 game at a time?
Yeah. No, I think, and we've kind of approached it the last couple games as well, the same way. We have an opportunity to win a championship. So this team, whoever we play next, so on Saturday, it's North Central, wants to come out and you're playing every game is for a championship. And so they're trying to knock you off. They want to get in the tournament, but, this is a championship level game. This is a tournament game for us. And that's the mentality we're going to have in these last 3 games because, we are still playing, for first to try to, obviously out, bump Illinois Wesleyan off. They would have to slip up. So we're still playing in our mindset. We're playing for a championship. We want to play for the first place seed in the tournament. And so we're actually our tournament has already started in our mind. And that's kind of the mentality that we've had.
Van Male Arena is going to be important. Only lost 5 games there in the last X amount of time. I mean, 30 games, I want to say.
Yeah.
That place is kind of fun to stay at home with, so it's important.
Yeah. I mean, we, in the last couple of years, kudos to the Carroll community. We've gotten really good turnouts for games. We've gotten a really good student section. They showed up when we played Illinois Wesleyan, even though it resulted in a loss for us. We do think that environment can be a huge home court advantage. So we definitely see, the plus in hosting the conference tournament.
You were in a different conference. Now you're in the CCIW. You've gotten very comfortable in the CCIW yourselves. It's a tough race. What is it about this transition that has worked? And did it take you all a little while to kind of get back up to speed with the CCIW?
Yeah, I mean, so my first year as head coach was at Carroll was the first year we went into the CCIW. So I wasn't the head coach when they were in the Midwest, but obviously we play Midwest teams non-conference. And I think one of the things that's so impressive about this league is how competitive it is from top to bottom. Even though you talk about these last 3 games, all those teams fighting, for a place in the conference tournament or to host a game in the conference tournament in the quarterfinals. I mean, any team can get hot, and then, and that's what makes this conference scary. And I think, the CCIW for women's basketball has taken a huge jump even from last year. Like historically, we've been really strong, but I think this year, this is the strongest it's been in the 8 years that I've been here. And so when we first started, year one back in the CCIW, we had a lot of work to do, just from a competitive standpoint, culture, recruiting the right student athletes that could be competitive in the CCIW. And I think, it took some time, but now, we're peaking, in the last couple of years. Like, I think in the last 3 years, we've just slowly climbed to try to get to the top of the conference. So, and it's impressive to our athletes that have put in the time and want to be part of something that, has been built and continues to build, because our goal obviously is to win that conference championship and go to the NCAAs.
Well, obviously the NCAAs are certainly important, and you want to get there and win the conference title. Do you feel comfortable maybe that you could also get in as at large, or do you not want to risk it? The mentality, that is.
We never want to risk it. So obviously that conference tournament championship is definitely a huge goal for us. But the reason why we did schedule those teams in the non-conference was to put us in a position to get our SOS up, to play strong teams, to get us ready for the NCAA tournament, in hopes to get an at-large bid if we weren't to win the conference tournament.
It's impressive, Coach, to say the least. Really, I mean, I think a lot of us got caught going, well, Milliken's really darn good. Illinois Wesleyan's really darn good. This is going to be a two-team race. And here comes Carroll galloping along saying, hello. It's been impressive. And I didn't even get into the fact of how you all did against Milliken. Hold on, I want to call it up because I don't want to get it wrong. You beat them 80-75 back at the end of the month. And you had beaten, as we mentioned, in overtime in December. So, you're beating a really good team in Milliken, even if Illinois Wesleyan has the other two. It's impressive. I keep talking to you about it, but I know you got better things to do, and you got to prepare for these games coming up. I appreciate your time and the insight on the Pioneers. Fun to chat with you and get a different take on a fun race in the CCIW. As always, though, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who might be tuned in?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having us on and the opportunity to talk about Carroll women's basketball. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for finding time to join us as well, especially in the middle of your day. Take care. Good luck. We look forward to seeing how this all plays out and maybe be talking about you in March as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wasn't going to make it a sure thing. I've learned my lesson. Lindsay, thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Good luck to the team, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks.
Lindsay Schultz joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Fun conversation with her. Good Pioneer squad there. That's another fun little race at the top of the CCIW. I'm glad there's another team in the mix, to be completely honest. I like it when we have a lot of teams in the mix. It makes these conference races even more exciting. And it also makes Selection Sunday a little bit more interesting. We'll take a break. When we come back to keep talking women's basketball. We'll head to Scranton. The 8th-ranked Royals are playing well, but they're in a tough race in the landmark as well. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. it was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III in athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go on a personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. As we continue on this midday supersized edition of The Big Show. Well, The Big Show was last week. Appreciate everybody who tuned in for the marathon that took place on Friday last week. I have not actually looked at the streaming numbers, but it certainly looked decent during the show. We had some great topics on there, including a long conversation with both committee chairs. You should definitely go back to watch. And we'll talk more about top 16 announcements coming up next week here on the show. We'll keep with the topic of women's programs and the top 25, interesting enough, just the way things lined up today. Scranton women's basketball has been pretty synonymous with the top 25, despite a number of coaching changes over the years since Mike Strong was the head coach. Klingman, are we fourth now since Mike Strong, I think? But they have stayed really darn consistent. But the landmark race is not an easy one, to say the least. There are a lot of good teams in the landmark, especially at the top, and some in the middle that are willing to come up and kind of nip at your toes. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about is Ben O'Brien, the head coach of the aforementioned Scranton women's basketball. A little bit of royalty in the hot seat here. Coach, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time. You and I saw each other recently. I don't think anything in that game was really indicative of whether your team was good or not, except I took one thing away from it. Your bench is deep. You've got a lot of talent on this team. It's got to be really tough to manage to make sure everybody gets the right amount of playing time.
Yeah, it's first of all, thanks for having me, Dave. Yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's actually been something this season that we've really had to rely on and has been very important due to some injuries that we've had over the last 2 months and a bunch of different lineups. We've needed and called upon that bench very often. So, one of the downfalls of some injuries and some different things is you're missing some key players. But one of the big advantages of that is you get to develop your depth. And I think that, over the last couple months, we've had an opportunity to play a lot of players. And we're obviously fortunate that we have a lot of good players that can step on the court and be ready and contribute. So I think that has become one of our strengths as this season has gone on.
You have 9 graduate and or seniors on this team. Whether they all come back, I don't know. You have a better idea of that than I would. But 9, 2 juniors, 3 sophomores, 4 freshmen. Just reading that on face value, it feels like you've got a big hurdle ahead of you next year, that this year is important. Try and get whatever you can get done now, because you've got the talent, the experience, etc. in place, and next year will be a step off. We'll look at individuals here in a minute to prove that out, or whether it's completely false. But just in the sense of knowing you got that much upperclassmen, is that kind of a daunting experience to know that you're going to lose a wealth of talent, whether it's this year or next?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I think a similar thing could have been said about our team last year. We were losing a lot of significant upperclassmen, several of which decided to come back, that we were unsure whether or not that was going to happen, and have been huge boosts to our team this year. So obviously with one more COVID year, there could be some of that group that decides to come back. But you're right. We definitely have a lot of upperclassmen on the team, but we're also fortunate to have a lot of underclassmen that are major contributors to this team right now. 2 players currently in our starting lineup are sophomores. We bring several freshmen off the bench that are in our rotation and that are major contributors. And then we have another sophomore who comes off the bench, who's Jenna Sloan, who's a major contributor. So when you look at it on paper, I think it looks more daunting than I feel it is, and our coaching staff feels it is, just because we know how talented our underclassmen are as well.
This is where the trick is, because I mentioned all those upperclassmen, but when you dive into the numbers, you realize it's underclassmen, as you mentioned. You've got Casey Cranston, who started every single game this year as a sophomore, leading the team in scoring at 16.5 points a game, 7.5 boards per contest, by the way, on top of that. You've got Kaylee Romanowski, by the way, a sophomore. She started all but one game this season that she didn't play in. She's averaging 10 points a game, 4 rebounds a contest as well. I think your top assists. Yeah, she's got the most assists. Both players shoot 45% from the floor. Neither of them is a huge outside threat, but they'll take some shots, and they're both good at free throws. Then you get to a senior in Maddie Ryan, who's averaging 9.2 and then 5.7 points, rebounds, respectively. So, yeah, you got all these upperclassmen, but it's these 2 sophomores that are kind of leading the charge for the Royals.
Yeah, it's been a collective effort for sure, because, the upperclassmen, have been tremendous leaders on our team. They're especially good when it comes to defensive communication and some of the things that may not show up on the stat sheet. So we've gotten really valuable contributions from all of our classes, and I think all great teams need that, right? So we're no different from that standpoint. I mean, I certainly don't want to suggest that we are reliant on any one class on our team. It's been a collective effort from start to finish. And like I said, we've had a lot of moving parts throughout the season. I think we're starting now to get healthy. We're as healthy as we've been all year as we stand here today. So I think we're going to continue to get lots of contributions from a lot of different players, from a lot of different classes.
Looking at the conference race, Catholic's got you by a game right now. And looking back on the season, you have split with Catholic, an overtime loss down in D.C. by 3, and a win just the last week by 5 at your place, but you're still a game back of them in the conference standings. E-Town's behind you by a game. Susquehanna's a bit back, and then Drew and then Moravian. Really, this is about positioning yourself at least for the top 2 so that you get a bye in the new adjusted landmark race where the top 6 make the playoffs. You don't want to be necessarily playing on Tuesday, even though you probably would be at home. Do I get the drift right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about last week, like playoffs have already started for us. I mean, every game at this point is a playoff game. Every game has significant ramifications on a whole host of things and involving the goals and things that we have for our team this season. But so I'm not looking at it that far down the road from the standpoint of we need to win all the games that we play, and that's kind of the mindset that we have. We played well last night against Moravian. We have a big game against a very good Susquehanna team on Saturday, and our objective here is we've got to win them all, and that's what we're trying to do.
Got a bit of a tricky, though, schedule coming up because you do have Susquehanna and Light coming on the road. Then you'll play Elizabethtown at home. Just speculating, if Elizabethtown's still a game behind you at that point and you lose and you tie and you're sitting in second, you lose the tiebreaker because they've already tripped you up once this season. You fall to third. I know you're looking at every game at a time, but just looking out, you got to make sure you're at least in the right position going into that E-Town game. You want to win it, certainly, but you would love to get someone to help you out and maybe knock off E-Town.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. So we're just focused on what we can control. And what we can control is getting prepared to play our best basketball in our next game. And we think if we do that, at the same time, we continue to learn and improve as we go along, that we give ourselves the best chance to win every game that we play. And that's our objective.
Interesting enough, E-Town's in this position because they lost back-to-back games at the end of January to Susquehanna and Catholic, having lost earlier in the season to Catholic. So E-Town kind of put themselves in a tough spot. Otherwise, they'd be in the catbird seat, which is why this conference is so fascinating, and it always has been. Yourselves, Catholic, E-Town, Moravian, though Mary Beth Spurk's team maybe not as competitive on the record book, they're certainly still competitive in games. Sometimes this conference can go 5 deep easily. Susquehanna's in the mix this year. Drew has emerged in the last couple of years. Now you add in Lycoming and Wilkes just to make things a little bit more interesting. This conference can be sneaky tough.
Yeah, no, it's a battle. I mean, it's really tough. There's a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players. And so, yeah, it's our preseason is designed to get us ready for conference play, and because we know how tough and how grueling it can be, and we're in the middle of it now. I mean, we're in the we're at the, I shouldn't say the middle, we're in the home stretch of it. The most difficult part of it is upon us. So we know how tough it is, and it's why we prepare so hard, and our players do everything they can to put themselves in position to play well in those games. And it's also a very exciting time. I mean, this is what it's all about. We've been working hard for months now. Our players have been working hard, and it's for games and moments like this. So, we're ready to go.
The 2 losses you have this season, both coming in conference play to E-Town and Catholic, came in a 9-day stretch. Was that kind of when, by the way, sandwich in between when it's over Susquehanna and Moravian, was that kind of time when you guys were dealing with the injuries? What was it about that 9-10-day stretch there that didn't go in your favor?
Yeah, I mean, we've the month of December and really the first half of January, we might have had 7 or 8 different starting lineups during the course of that time, just because of whether injury or sickness. And so it was a difficult time in terms of just getting settled. But again, we were fortunate that time was a great opportunity for some other players to step in and grow and develop. And I think at the end of it, having gone through it, we're going to be better for it. So it was a little bit some turmoil in terms of that, but that's not taking away anything from the other teams. I mean, Elizabethtown beat us at Elizabethtown. Catholic beat us at Catholic because they're very good teams and they played very well, and they made a couple more plays at the end of the game than we did. So, but I do think that we're getting better, we're getting healthier, and I think we have a chance really to be the best versions of ourselves here very soon.
That's a little bit of a scary notion, considering NCAAs are ahead, and this is a team that's certainly synonymous. 28-1 last year. Your lone loss coming to what is obviously a very good Rhode Island College team in the second round of the NCAA tournament last year. The year before, 27-3 was this program, losing to NYU in the round of 16 at Hope. Again, really good NYU team that's just gotten better. Who knows what the road will look like? I assume you'd like to be at home in at least the opening rounds, but at some point you're probably going to have to hit the road. How do you prepare for the road side of any equation, but especially NCAAs?
Yeah, again, that seems so far in the future at this point right now. I haven't really given much thought to that. Our focus
Not what we're
is
looking for, Ben. Come on, play with us.
Our focus is totally on Susquehanna. So we're going to be on the road the one road test I can talk to you about, Dave, is Susquehanna on Saturday. That's going to be an incredibly
Boo,
hard
hiss,
road
hiss,
test.
and boo. Ben, you're not playing our game. I don't like it. I kid, obviously, completely. But I understand. But does, last year such a great season, going undefeated and then getting bounced again by a good Rhode Island college team in the second round. Is that still stinging with this program? Is it still a driving force to remember, listen, we had a great season last year and it came to a very abrupt end. This can end at any moment if we're not on task.
Every loss stings, Dave. Every loss stings, and I think, and it should. And I think it serves as fuel and motivation for certainly our whole program. But we want to always keep growing and keep getting better and keep going further. So that's sort of our mindset on that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Certainly does. Oh, I mentioned at the intro, you're the fourth or fifth coach since Ben Strong retired. We got so used to one coach running this Royals program. Klingman for 1 year. It then moved on. And it's interesting, we've been all men's coaches since then. Klingman being the only female coach. That's just a note. There's no comment to that. You came in, took over a program. I'm very curious, other than getting good coaches, why is Scranton so consistent still? Does it recruit itself to some degree, kind of like a Messiah does in a lot of sports? Or is there something else that just allows Scranton women's basketball to almost never feel a lull?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the leadership at the university. So our athletic director, Dave Martin, does an unbelievable job of continuing to grow and build a culture of winning, not just women's basketball, but all sports. It's something that we do a whole bunch of things with our student athletes. When I say we, the athletic department led by Dave does a whole bunch of things as it relates to culture and motivation and a bunch of stuff that I think is incredibly valuable to our student athletes. And it's a priority here. Like every program, the goal is to win, and it matters here, and that's the objective. And I think so. That's a huge part of it. And then, of course, on the academic side of things, the fact that we offer a ton of great majors and are renowned around the country for some of our different programs make it very appealing from an academic standpoint. So I think it goes hand in hand. But my interactions in terms of what I see the most is on the athletic side of things. And we just, the program and the culture here department-wide is unbelievable.
Certainly Dave Martin, we know well, friend of the program, came from Misericordia. Trevor Woodruff was a coach that keeps escaping my mind, being the one that followed Klingman, who, interesting enough, was at Misericordia. Ironically enough, I don't think Dave Martin knew he was applying for the job until the resume showed up on his desk. Impressive, Ben. Obviously, very impressive, and tip of the hat to continuing the royal way, as it were, and getting this program continually in the conversation in what is a very tough landmark conference battle, as we all know. Tip of the hat, to say the least. This is a really good team to watch. And again, I was impressed with how deep the bench is, to say the least. You were mentioning, though, about the atmosphere of excellence, and obviously we see it in soccer and we see it in other sports as well. Does that make, and I'm not trying to knock on it or shine too much of a light on it, but does that make a season like the men are having with Carroll a little bit weird? And how's that dynamic with the teams? Because they're getting better, by the way. That men's team is certainly a lot better now than it was back in November and December, but they're just not having an atypical season. So what's that dynamic like after, talking about just the way programs usually work there?
Well, everyone's pulling for each other. I mean, there's a great camaraderie among the coaches, among the administration. So it's a great environment from that standpoint. As it relates to the men's program, I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen a team in the country experience as much hardship and injuries as they have. I mean, every time you turn around, there's a new player who's out for the season, to the point that I think they're having a difficult time getting 10 players to practice. There's been that much attrition in the roster, just fluke injury after fluke injury. So every coach can appreciate where Carl and Jeff are right now in terms of they just are dealing with such a depleted roster. It's you wouldn't even believe it if someone sort of told you all the stuff that they've gone through from an injury standpoint this season. So they're doing a great job. Morale's super high with their team. Again, they're getting an opportunity to play a bunch of young players who are going to grow and develop. And once they get all their players back, next season, look out.
Do me a favor. I'm not expecting this anytime in the near future. I hope to see Carl still coaching for a few years to come. I love watching him as a coach and seeing him on the sideline. And I've stayed away from him this year because I don't want to antagonize him on the season. But let Dave Martin know when Carl does decide to retire. There is one coach that I have personally locked up that he's not allowed to touch, that has Scranton ties. Unfortunately, Klingman will not be coming to Scranton. I personally made sure of that with a non-signed document that doesn't exist. Just let Dave know. Leave him alone. I want him to stay down in Baltimore, okay?
Will do.
Ben, appreciate the time. Great to chat with you. Look forward to I have a feeling talk about Scranton in March. I don't see how it won't happen, but I know it's tough, and so I'm not going to write it in. We'll pencil it in for now. But in the meantime, we always give the coach the final word. Final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Yeah, Dave, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for all your coverage and everything that you do for Division III women's basketball. I know our players, our coaches, the fans all greatly appreciate it. And as always, it was a pleasure and look forward to doing it again.
Kind of you to say, sir. Thank you very much. Again, good luck the rest of the way. A couple of big trips here, I know, on the road before finishing things up, and we'll look forward to seeing how. Oh, I did forget. I'm sorry. I forgot one question. I warned you I was going to do this. Article came out today. Sorry, this is not how we do our show usually. Usually that was the final word. Article came out today. I have not read Ryan Scott's article about paywalls in Division III and how they're kind of starting to work its way back with Flow Sports. Landmark Conference was one of the first ones. We haven't talked about this with other Landmark guests, but because of the article today, I did want to ask you just your thoughts on it. Now that it's behind a paywall, parents have to pay to watch, recruiting, they have to pay to watch your program. Have you seen an impact? Has it been too early? What have been your reactions to that setup?
Yeah, I've had very little interaction with it. I've had no conversations with any parents or players beyond our initial setup conversations of, hey, here's how you get in and that sort of thing. So I've been given sort of no feedback on it. So as far as I know, it's going very, very well. I don't use it very much. I mean, we upload our games to Synergy, so it's not something that I'm using on a regular basis. But as far as I know, it's been going well. But I know very little.
No, I appreciate that. I'm sorry to kind of make that disconjointed. I looked over to my left and remembered that the article was sitting there, and I totally forgot to ask you about it. But I appreciate that. Like I said, it was the right timing to do it, and I just wanted to get your input. Ben, take care. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks again. See you, Dave.
Ben O'Brien joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. A little weird there, throwing usually the final word's the final word. We got to stick to our program. Appreciate Ben taking his time. Great to talk about the Scranton program and a tough Landmark race. When we come back, we'll jump up to Maine, talk Maine Maritime women's basketball. They're in first place on their side of the neck. It's not all done yet, though. But Greg Dagan's squad is playing really good basketball and definitely flying under everybody's radars. I know they're not coming from a really competitive conference, but let's be honest. Maine Maritime's that kind of team like we talk about on the men's side you may not want to see in the first round of the NCAA tournament. We'll talk to him about all of that coming up. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
it helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
These are your teams, your players, your community of fans. This is where they play, where they practice, where you cheer. At every meet, every event, every game. Your community is passionate, dedicated, supportive. You know the tension of a close game and the thrill of the win. So while you're cheering, keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit nabc.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's nabc.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
Ad ran again. There we go. Fixed it. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you've got questions for us, social media information at the bottom of your screen. Donation information at the top of the screen. If you don't have Venmo, we have GiveButter as well, though I realize now it's not on our show page. We'll add that. Also, GiveButter is just a side thing. You don't have to use it. If you want to find another way to send us a donation, email me. Also, for those of you who are intrigued to get something on the studio wall, some of our guests are seeing the part of the wall you all can't see, which goes off in this direction, which we hope to get visible in the near future. Send us an email as well. We'll get you information. You can also, if you don't have a jersey, we can decorate these shelves with more stuff too. Maine Coast has some really good basketball going on at Maine Maritime. They have for a couple of seasons now. Greg Dagan's squad certainly has played well. They're on top of their side of the NAC, which may be changing or is going to be changing in the future. The other side is SUNY Cobleskill. That'll be an interesting topic to talk about, but more importantly, it's getting it done on your side of the NAC playoffs. And Greg Dagan joins us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time. I'm just glad to see you guys aren't getting battered by another storm there on the coastline.
No, we're doing good. As I said to it off air, it's pretty mild here today, and as always, I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, I'm not used to being mild being the sentence I hear in February, but I know what you're saying, though. I know we're dialing up a storm over here and next week possibly, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Hey, listen, started the season 3-3, right? Am I in the right season?
Again?
Yep, 3-3. Had to double check that. Losses to Bowdoin and Williams, and a loss to Colby. Not bad. Tough teams, right? Wins over St. Joseph Brooklyn, win over John Jay, win over William Patterson. After that, got things going with only a loss to a really good Bates team. By the way, Bowdoin's really good this year. Bates is really good this year. Colby's not too bad. So those aren't horrible losses, but you got to win over MIT, who's having a terrific season. That's kind of when my ears perked up a little bit. That game happening at the beginning of January, and then you get into conference play, and you are undefeated at 11-0, including those on the other side of the NAC. To me, those losses are just a little weird to say, good losses.
Yeah, I don't know if from a coaching standpoint if there's ever a good loss, but I get where you're coming from. Listen, I think one of the things that we wanted to do after last year, obviously winning the conference championship and getting a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, I think once we got there, we realized that we had to do some things differently in our non-conference schedule moving forward. And I think by the strength of our non-conference schedule, over 600, we've done a really good job of beefing that up. And the unfortunate part is early in the year, we weren't playing with a full deck either. I think when we started playing better, the win over MIT, even a little bit against Bates, I thought we had some good moments in that game in the beginning of January. The Bates game was one of the first games all year long that we actually played with our entire starting five together. So we had a little bit of an injury bug early on in the year, and I think it got some people some experience that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten, and it's definitely paid dividends now where we're playing probably our best basketball that we have all year long. So listen, we have 4 NESCAC teams on our schedule. We're hoping to get 1 or 2 of those. We didn't. The win against MIT kind of helped our team believe in the process that this was all coming to fruition. And as I said, we've played really good basketball since the beginning of January.
Interesting you make that comment about last year and being prepared for the NCAAs. We should point out last season, yes, it started off a little bit rough. You guys were 4-5 by the time January rolled along, but you did play MIT. You played Conn College, John Carroll, and Smith, all those losses. You did play Brandeis with a win. You did play Colby to a win. What did you feel about that non-conference, though? Granted, now that I think about it, John Carroll wasn't the power that it had been. But what did you think about that non-conference that you wanted to do different with this non-conference? Because from an outsider perspective, those schedules seem somewhat even.
Yeah, I think just we did a good job of playing the right conferences, and no disrespect to anybody who we played. We needed to get deeper into those conferences with some of the upper echelon, Bowdoin, obviously we hadn't had them for a few years, and getting them back on our schedule was important to us. Playing at the Williams tournament, knowing that Rhode Island College was also in that tournament. So we were going to get 1, maybe 2 really quality games in that event as well. So I think just us playing, and obviously you can't predict how teams are going to be from year to year. Bates had from their standards had a down year last year, and we beat them, and obviously they're having a great year this year, and it was a great game. I just think playing in more competitive games and against the upper echelon of those conferences was important to us too. So we knew MIT was going to be really good again, and they've had a great year, and especially with getting the conference player of the year back from the year before. I mean, she's pretty dynamite. She dropped 30 on us. Yeah, I just felt like we needed to just get some teams with higher strength of schedules and teams that were going to have better winning percentages.
I find it fascinating that you're once again dominating this conference, because I think you hinted at it. You went into that Babson game last season. I think probably with a lot more confidence, having rolled through the second half of the season. Does that mean you go into this half knowing you may still dominate, but with a different perspective on it?
Yeah, I think once you win, I heard a great quote the other day from Teddy Atlas, and it was a boxing quote, but he said, once you win, you're automatically 10% better. And I think for our kids, just getting over that hump, I think especially beating Hudson, who would struggle with in years past in those moments. And I think just them knowing and feeling that they can do that, and then finally stepping on that stage against Babson. And they obviously had a dynamite team with a great point guard. And even though the game was close at halftime, I think 1 or 2 points, it's that kid took over in the second half, and just getting that feeling of what it's like was really important for our kids. And with the exception of one player, everybody returned, and they definitely have a different confidence in their game and the way that they're going about themselves this year, and especially as a unit too. So, I mean, certainly once you're there, right, there's no more surprises, and we just had to get a feel for that. And certainly now when we played those good teams this year coming into it, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? They've been there before. We've done that. And I think it's made us even more confident when we get into our conference schedule. And the kids are showing it. We're playing great basketball. We're sharing the ball. We're from a shooting standpoint, our percentages are tremendous. We're just doing a lot of really good things. We're making the right basketball plays when it calls for it. And our kids are playing really good basketball right now.
Top of the NAC on both sides is interesting. It's yourselves and Husson, of course, neighbors. On your side of the NAC, you're 11-0 in conference play. They're 9-3, 14-9 overall. The SUNYs on the other side, Cobbleskull and Canton, are the ones, same records, 11-0, 9-3 as well, though Cobbleskull is 22-1 overall, Canton 19-5. Remind me, because I didn't get it looked up in time, how will this NAC playoff system work for you all?
Yeah, so I think Cobbleskull secured the number 1 seed on the other side, so they'll host the Final Four, so to speak, on the west side. We've secured the number 1 seed on the east side, so we'll host, not this weekend coming up, but the following weekend, we'll host the Final Four, and there's some seedings that still need to be figured out there. And then the following week after that, which I believe is the 24th, the east winner will play the west winner. So that's the way it's going to work out. And we've got some work to do before we get to Husson, and everybody's anticipating that game, but both teams need to win first. And if we do, I'm sure it will be another great game. And they're a good team, and they've got Bailey Donovan, who's one of the best players in the country. And she's always really hard to game plan for, probably the hardest kid that in my years here having to game plan for, just because of her dominance in the paint. So we've got a lot of work to do before we get to the west side. Hopefully we get there and get another opportunity to play for a chance to go to the NCAA tournament.
The advantage right now is all 4 teams sitting in that on your side are all Maine schools. Thomas, Presque Isle, yourselves, and Husson, as you mentioned. On the other side, it's Cobbleskull, Canton, Morrisville State, and Eastern Nazarene. So I kind of feel bad for Eastern Nazarene. But quickly, I'll get to your team in a moment. But while we're talking about the conference, this conference will go through some changes already. We know that a handful of schools on that western side will be joining the SUNYAC. From what I've talked to inside the conference, it sounds like that was kind of expected. This idea of a grand conference was good for a while, but maybe wouldn't last. You're going to have to go through some more changes. Also, you never know if schools are going to survive or more schools come in, for all we know. Is that tough as a coach, or you just kind of go with the flow?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have no choice but to go with the flow, right? And there's people that make
Fair
a lot
point.
more money than us that are making these decisions. But I don't think that there's a coach on either side that's going to be unhappy when this finally breaks up. I think that the New York schools that are going to the SUNY are excited about that opportunity. I think one more year after, there'll be no more New York schools in our conference. I think it's going to pretty much all dissolve. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn. To be honest with you, just from a travel standpoint, a budgetary standpoint, I think it's the right thing to do. It worked. It did it served its purpose, so to speak. And it's, I'm going to be excited when we don't have to get on a bus to New York in the near future. But I mean, they've done a good job over there. I mean, Cobbleskill's had a really great year. Canton's had a good year. Unfortunately, they got hit by the injury bug with one of their best players being lost for the season. I think that the outcomes would probably be very different if she was playing. We'll see what happens. But, Cobbleskull has had a really, really good season. They're playing good basketball as well.
I like the idea initially that you'd only play the other side once. It reduced the travel a little bit, but I know it never got totally set before kind of some changes took place. And I know, and of course the NVUs, not knowing their future and the constant changes there has not made it easy either. But I move on. Let's talk about your team. Something that's unique about your team that we should point out is the same at Merchant Marine. It's the same at Coast Guard and some of these others. You don't get to necessarily enjoy fifth years. These student athletes have bigger things in mind, and certainly in their future is getting assigned to ships and such to be merchant marines. So you can't sit there and go, hey, maybe I'll get a fifth or sixth year out of a player. You've got one senior. You've got a host of juniors on this team, and then sophomores and a handful of freshmen. I'm not trying to look ahead. I know you don't want to look ahead, but with that many juniors and what you have done the last now 2 seasons, you got to be pretty happy with what you could be doing into the future.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of putting this together from a recruiting standpoint, right? So short-term success and long-term success. And I think we've built up our program to have both. And that junior class is special. They're super talented. But we've also got some really, really good pieces in the sophomore class, some kids that are contributing in a big way for us right now. And we've got a couple freshmen that are doing the same. And we're super excited about the freshman class that we're building for next year too. So, yeah, I mean, we're always, excited and trying to stay in the moment for this particular team, but we're excited about the future and what that holds for us too.
You've got 3 players leading the way. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're all sophomores in terms of scoring. Sorry, I lost where I was. I don't know how here we go. Ariana Moore, 13 points a game, 7 boards a contest, shoots 46% from the floor, 34% from deep, 90% plus from the free throw line. In other words, she's going to get you no matter how you want to play her. Maria Barella, she's a sophomore, 11.5 points a game, 6 rebounds a contest. I'm scared. No, Barella's a junior, sorry.
Yeah, Moore and Barella are both juniors.
Is Moore junior too? Did I look at that
I'd
right?
like her to be a sophomore, but she's a junior.
Sorry, she is a junior. Yep. Apologies. Yep. There is this other one I'm trying to read. A sophomore out of Castine, Maine. Let's see here. Evelyn Dagan. Is that how you say that last name?
That is
Evelyn
how you say
Dagan?
it, yes. That is how you say it. No,
Coach.
They've the 3 of them have had phenomenal years. Sid Briscoe is also having a phenomenal year, and she's another junior. And I think when we spoke this time last year, our point guard was Mackenzie Monzon was deployed overseas in Poland, and she's back this year and once again having a phenomenal year. And that's been the core starting 5 that we've had this year. And even though we've got tremendous production off the bench, those 5 have pretty much carried the day in a lot of ways. And but yeah, I mean, Ariana's a special player. She can score on all 3 levels, and I think the one thing that goes untalked about because her offensive numbers, and you mentioned rebounds, points, shooting percentages, her assist totals are incredible too. She's averaging almost 5 assists per game as well. So talking about somebody that makes the right basketball plays. But what doesn't get talked about is she's an elite defender. That kid can can cover 1 through 5, does a phenomenal job. And we actually had a conversation recently. We go back and look at every possession that she's had defensively this year. We could probably count on one hand how many times she's been scored on. She's really, really good, got great length and great timing. So Cece's just a scorer. Maria's a scorer. She's once again somebody that can score on all 3 levels, great getting downhill, does a great job rebounding for us. And because of those 2 and the collapsing defenses on the other players, Evelyn has really prospered, and she's one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. So yeah, we've got a great combination and great complement of players to one another and their skill sets. And we've been fortunate to find a way to use those skill sets to complement one another. And our kids have all sacrificed an awful lot of things personally from a basketball standpoint in order to play on a team like this, where they're asked to sacrifice statistics. I mean, the first 3 kids I talked about would probably be all 20 points per game scorers on a lot of other teams, but I'm proud of the way that they've done things between the lines and sacrifice personal stats in order for us to have the success that we've had.
I mean, great, let's see, trio, great, quad, great, quintet. I mean, it goes down, and obviously you have a lot of players who come offline or come off the bench who do well. I am curious, though, what's it like to be coaching your daughter? Because I know it was last year was a freshman, but she's as a sophomore making really huge contributions to this program. I know, you had to kind of convince her to become a Mariner to some degree, right? But that's the first step, but now you got her clicking on all cylinders.
Well, yeah. Well, the convincing part was from my assistant coach. She's the one that recruited her. Dad tried to stay out of it, but she did a good
smart,
job.
sir. But I'd like to know what that assistant coach to parent conversation was like, just for the record.
That's offline. And last year she was a 2-sport athlete too. She played on our very successful volleyball program here as well. And this summer she made a decision to focus just on basketball, and she worked super hard. And listen, anytime you personally can see a kid grow and work hard and then, get the accolades and the respect and see the success that they're having, it's always a special thing. But coaching my daughter, Evelyn's a great kid and she's a hard worker and she's got a long ways to go to be a complete basketball player. Once again, somebody that needed to improve a lot on the defensive end of the floor, and she certainly has. It's fun. Honestly, I'm blessed. And how many people get a chance to have a job that I have in coaching, because it's a really cool thing to do, but then get an opportunity to coach your daughter along the way. It's been one of the greatest experiences that I can ever have that I could ever imagine having in my 30 years of doing this. So she's a pleasure to coach, and she's a great teammate too. So it's been a good fit.
Wait till the mom or dad hears you say she's still got to grow as a player. They
she does. She's got a long ways to go, and I'll probably never be satisfied. And that's probably the case with all of my players. But she's got some things, and I think every one of our kids. And you mentioned kids coming off the bench. Holly Reader Mornings, our seniors, had a wonderful year, and you mentioned this, right? Like she has a 5th year, and she's not going to use that 5th year because she's got a job with 6 figures sitting on the other end waiting. So I think that's the reason they come here first and foremost. But Grace Huntwork got off to a slow start this year. She started almost every game for us last year. She's a sophomore and she's playing the best basketball of her season right now. We've just got a ton of depth. We've got a transfer that's playing great for us right now, Sydney Loring. Haley Blanchard, a point guard out of Colorado Springs, is a great compliment to Mackenzie Monzon coming off the bench. So I think the one thing that is probably the difference between last year's team and that makes us better is we've just got great depth this year.
The depth is so key, and you can see it on the roster. You can see it on the stats. We've talked to a lot of teams today about how the depth is the key. We've talked to a lot of teams overall this season that the depth is the key. No pun intended to Mariners who probably don't, worry about depth.
No pun intended. Good one, though. That was good, Dave.
Thank
that was
you.
Good.
Just came to me. Right now, my wife's on her way to El Salvador. She can't ground or yell at me for a dad joke. It's the small things in life, as you can probably appreciate. I appreciate the time and the insight on all of this. I always get a kick out of watching you guys play. I know you're harassed by someone who wants to take more credit for this program, as you and I both know, via text at least. But this program, this department at all is growing. Football's coming back. You've got other programs that are starting to get their stride a little bit. It feels like things are being figured out in Castine.
Yeah, they really are. And that person you're talking about, I'll say his name. He'll be happy. Steve Pete is our director of athletics, and Steve's done an amazing job. We've had a lot of uncertainty with losing football during COVID, and now it coming back and adding men's and women's wrestling. And there's just a lot of moving parts to what we're doing right now. And Steve has done an amazing job of not only building this department and creating standards that maybe we didn't have in the past, but at the same time, I'm going to be honest with you, he stays out of our way and lets us do our job. And when we cross the line, he reels us back in. But he fights for us every day, fights for us with our administration. And I don't mean in a negative way, but just going up there and trying to get things that we need and deserve in order to be a successful program and successful department. So I don't think there's any secret to the fact that we've won more championships in the last 3 or 4 years as a department on a yearly basis than we ever have. And a lot of that is due to the work that Steve puts in on a regular basis, as well as Trisha Carver, our women's volleyball coach and associate athletic director. So we get a lot of people doing a lot of really good things that are helping us get to where we're at.
At this time of year, he actually stays a little bit busy because he's in and out of whether he's the head coach of the women's lacrosse program or not. So
yeah, we all don't know what's going on there too, but I'm sure we'll figure that out sooner than later. But
I
all I know
poking-
is he's a good administrator and he does a good job for us in doing what we're doing. And we got a lot of great coaches here across the board. We're in a really good place as a department.
I know volleyball is a solid program as well, and et cetera. I know
Women's
you
soccer
guys
just won a second championship
Yeah.
in 3 years. So there's a lot of good things happening here.
I'm just poking the bear. That's all I was doing. I'm just trying to poke the bear.
Poke away. You can poke away at Steve all you want.
I'm waiting for the text message. I haven't seen it yet. Craig, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate the insight. Obviously near and dear to my heart just because it's out of the state of Maine, even though I tell a lot of people I didn't grow up in Maine. I spent a lot of time there, and I certainly appreciate where you all are located and the toughness that brings, but also impressed because like Coast Guard, like Merchant Marine, like these others, it's such a nuanced niche that you have to get these student athletes to buy into first. Navy, Army, Air Force, all of these institutions. So I'm always impressed when you're doing well, and I appreciate your time to give us the insight on that and the NAC. As always, we give the guests...
Well, I appreciate your time too, David. I appreciate what you do for D3 basketball on the men's and women's side. And selfless plug here, like literally every night, the first website that I go to is D3 to figure out scores and all that stuff. So I appreciate everything that you're doing on your end to promote our sport.
Hit the wrong button. Well, thank you for, doing that. We appreciate that as well. As always, we give the get last word. Unless you want that to be it, I appreciate your time, sir.
No, I think that's a good way to end it. Appreciate you too.
Sounds good. Craig, take care of yourself. Look forward to hearing when you get back on the golf course. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of the season. And we look forward to maybe seeing the Mariners once again in the tournament and maybe making it a rough day for somebody.
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Take care. Craig Dagan joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline from Castine, Maine. Wonderful chat with him as always. Congratulations on a really good Maine Mariners, Mariners team. Not Maine Mariners. That's a different conversation. We'll take a break. When we come back, where are we going? Oh, we're jumping men's basketball to a team we haven't talked to very much. We're going to talk about Tornadoes. That's the mascot. The Tornadoes. It's the Golden Tornado. It's complicated. Geneva joins us to talk about their men's basketball program. Coming up, you're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops after this. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we continue on our supersized edition of the show. If you got questions for us, social media channels at the bottom. If you'd like to donate to the cause, as it were, that information on the bottom of your screens as well. Lots to talk about, and that's why we're doing this supersized show. We still have a couple more guests left. And of course, we'll be on the air Monday. That'll be an afternoon show, heads up. Monday show is a 1 o'clock show because I got to be elsewhere for a pajama game that evening. And then next Thursday, a week from today, believe it or not, we'll talk about it at the end of the show. We'll be talking about the top 16s announcement coming on. And that will be a live-ish at 7 o'clock. We will have to pre-tape a few of the segments, but we'll talk about more of that, again, at the end of this show. So stay tuned to the final segment as we do some work, as it were. Jumping into the PAC conference, the Pennsylvania Athletic Conference, talk about things going on there. If you look at the standings, it's been interesting because at one point, St. Vincent was undefeated and rolling along in this conference. Chatham men's basketball seemed to be in the mix, but they've fallen off. But believe it or not, St. Vincent, after going, 17-0 to start the season, have lost 3 of the last 5. It has opened up the door because one of those losses was to our next guest, lost by 4, and it allowed Geneva to jump to the top of the conference. And while they lost last night, they've got a 1.5 game lead on St. Vincent heading into the last few games of the regular season. They have split, I think, no. Well, we'll figure it out because Jeff joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, really, who can answer these questions for us. I don't know why I'm trying to do it myself. Is Jeff's sent? I knew I was going to do this. Sent us. Nope, Coach, tell me.
Santa Cero.
I knew I was going to overthink it when I went in to tell you.
That's all right. I get a bunch of different, Dave. I get a bunch of different pronunciations. A couple different ethnic groups. It does. I answer to everything. Normally, I just answer to Coach. So feel free to just do that. So.
I like that there's a little sneak of the holidays in there. Santa Cero.
Very easy to wrap the gifts. I just say from Santa. So
there you go. Nice. Well done. I like that. Works out perfect. Just got to get the beard. Well, then no, never mind. We'll move on.
No, if you look at me, I ain't growing no beard and no hair on my. This is 42 years of coaching right here. So
there you go.
That's what it is.
We had a little fun with the tweet we put out talking about checking in on the weather. 1, because you are coming off a loss, but 2, one of the more unique mascots in Division III, the Golden Tornadoes. I got to get it out of the way. I have a whole book about this, so I know it. But where in the world did that come from?
That was done when we had a tornado go through here in the early 80s, and we actually had a couple. But what happened is the shutters of the Old Maine, which is our signature building on campus, had golden shutters. So when the tornado went through, it pulled the shutters off and kind of gave a gold hue to the sky. and that's where the Golden Tornadoes came from.
That's one way to commemorate it.
Yeah.
I've heard of a lot of different reasons, but that's fascinating. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Your squad's playing pretty well. Again, as we mentioned, coming off of a loss in overtime to W&J last night, 92-89. Prior to that, though, you had beaten. Actually, it's interesting because W&J brought a winning streak to an end that started against W&J back on December 16th when you beat them by 4 at home. You were coming off of a loss to St. Vincent. To answer my question earlier, you've split with them. I know you're looking at your wounds. Let's start there. What was it about last night, coming off the win over St. Vincent prior that W&J took advantage of?
Well, though, the one thing with the PAC, Dave, is there's a lot of parity in the league. Any given night, anybody can been playing well. They have won, I think, 4 of their last 5 games coming into us, or maybe even better than that. But they're a good team. They were going through some injuries early in the year and got on a little bit of a losing streak, but they have been playing better. Their home record had been good, and I knew they were playing good, so I knew it would be a tough test for us. And they hit shots. We didn't. We were fortunate to get to overtime, and then kind of ran out of gas a little bit, but credit to them. They did what they needed to do. But I told the guys after the game, better to do it last night than at the end of the year. So I think that'll get us refocused a little bit and get us ready to go on this final push.
Yeah, they were 2-17, I believe, and have won 6 of their last 7. They're now, 2-13. They're now 8-14 overall. Wins over Allegheny, Chatham, Waynesburg, Franciscan, Teal, and yourselves. They got St. Vincent, Grove City, and Allegheny ahead. They could ruin a few days there. Right. You guys have 2 left, Bethany and Westminster, and you're going to split them. Certainly things, I don't think they're locked up for number 1. I think you have to at least get one of the next 2, if not both, to lock up number 1 for sure, right?
Yeah, I think the way I let 2 of my assistants are math teachers, so I let them figure it out. But I think we have to win one of the next 2 because we have all the tiebreakers with St. Vincent. So because we swept Waynesburg and they lost to Waynesburg. So I think that's it, all how teams figure out. But I think if we win one of the next 2, then we'll get the number 1 seed.
This is a heck of a season, Coach. You're at 20 wins, and I can't find a point dating back to 2008, 2009 that you guys had 20 wins on the season. I think we got a hint of this last year when you guys won 18-11. Unfortunately, losing 3 of your last 4 and 4 of your last 6 to kind of not finish, I think, how you wanted. But at one point, we kind of started seeing a hint of where this season could develop. What has been the magic this year? Your only losses are to Pitt, Greensburg, St. Vincent, and W&J. What is it about? What's working so well?
Well, I think this group, they share the ball very, very well. They move the ball. Part of our offense, our motion offense, is moving side to side. And these guys don't care who gets the credit, Dave. I mean, we've had different leading scorers throughout the last 6 or 7 games. But I think that we had a really good player last year in Lyle Tipton, 2-time PAC Player of the Year. He is now up at Gannon University on helping them to turn their program around. I think Lyle was so good. Every time Lyle got the ball, we kind of stood and watched, and still were able to do some good things. But without him, I think made us move the ball a little bit more. They're all good players. They're gym rats. They're students of the game. They know, they watch film. So it's very easy for me to coach them. I'm not surprised because we kind of been building on this for the last 3 to 4 years to try to get to this point.
It's impressive, again, because I think St. Vincent got a lot of our attention at the beginning of the year. This conference, W&J, some others, Chatham, have certainly kind of represented the conference, and you guys haven't been the focal point. But when I dove into this team, I find first off, you have 4 players in double figures for a team averaging 70-plus points a game, to your point about distributing the ball. Also, when I dove into the assist, The number of guys who have 30 or more assists this season is 60 or 60 would be real. That'd be a record or something.
Yeah.
Isaac Massey obviously leading the way with nearly 100 assists. Yeah, you guys make sure that you have 100 assists more than your opponents. How do you though get that mentality into the team? I know sometimes the design of the offense will design that, but I was at a game last night where I kept hearing, all right, we're running whatever and make sure everybody touches the ball first. Okay, that's great, but in the heat of the moment, someone's like, oh, I'm open.
Right. I think that they're all older kids. I mean, they're all, with the exception of Jonathan Bertovich, he's the only sophomore. They're all juniors or seniors or grad students. So, Isaac's back for his 5th year, doing his MBA's COVID year. And he just gives a presence on the floor that he knows when to get the ball to the right person. I think what we did last night, and I think that's something we're going to work on in practice today, is we settled a lot last night. When you talked about moving the ball, we settled on an open shot, but maybe it might not have been the best shot to take at that time. When we're really cooking, everybody's getting the right shot at the right time. And to your point, getting it to the right person at the right spot. I think we do that well. I think we do that better than anybody in the conference. Like you said, we have 4 guys in double figures. I can probably, you're like the stat guy, but I could probably go back through my years of coaching and the success we had at Geneva that anytime we get 4 guys in double figures, we usually probably 80% of the time win those games. When we have one guy getting 25 and 30 and another guy getting 10, 11, we struggle in those games. And that's been evident this year as well. So I think that we're going to get back to that mentality a little bit. But this team, I just get to walk out of my office, Dave, and go coach because they're prepared. They're good students. They're in the gym early, leave the gym late. It's just a typical team that wants to win, but they don't care who gets the credit.
That's impressive. And it takes a lot to buy into that. And you talked about the players there a little bit in the terms of you have a lot of juniors. You've got a senior and graduate students and a sophomore. Trevor Tipton's leading the way, 15.7 points a game, 4 rebounds, shooting 53% from the floor, 48% from beyond the arc, and 85% from the free throw line. Kind of going with the theme today of a player who can get you in every facet. Ryan Ratchick, senior, right?
Ratchick, yeah.
Let's see. I lost 15.5 points a game, 7.5 rebounds per contest. Peyton Triplett, who I looked up and now forgot. Triplett's a junior as well, right? Yeah,
correct.
Junior
Correct.
forward. He's got 12.5 and 6 boards. And then a little over 12 points for Isaac Massey, who you mentioned is a graduate student getting his graduate degree with 4.2 rebounds, leads the team in assists, 97 in 23 games, which quick math tells me that's more than 3 per contest. Oh, geez. 2, 4, 6. That's more than 4 per contest.
More 4.2, I think it was.
That's insane. And then
the other day.
It's a step off, but Jonathan Bertovich, who's a sophomore, 7 points a game, 4 boards a game, but he's second on the team in assists, shoots 47. By the way, they all shoot well. Tipton, 53. Ratchet, 47. Triplett, 59. Massey, 45. Bertovich, 47%. All of them also big threats from deep. That is a heck. And we haven't even gotten to the rest of the team. And that's already a dangerous 5-some.
Yeah, we're a tough guard because, and all these guys have the ability to take the ball to the basket too. And I think that's what makes us a tough out because we can get you in a lot of ways. Lately we've been getting people inside, and Peyton and Ryan have been really doing a good job with the inside presence. Even though we're a really good 3-point shooting team, every play that we run in the beginning of every game, sometimes the teams in the league will figure it out. We go to the post. So we get that established and then we work inside out. So that's been successful for us. And I think it's a thing that we try to establish early. So then the outside stuff opens up a little bit more, but we can drive the ball and kick it, rotate it. We have a theme called One More, which is not unique to me. Bobby Hurley's dad does a drill that in coaching, you steal so many things from other people, and it's just called one more. And you just keep on moving the ball to the best, the open guy, and it works for us. And I think that's the thing we coming. I knew that we would be a good offensive team. I didn't know that we would be good this defense. Last night was an anomaly, I think, because of the way the game went. But, we're only giving up 64 points a game, which is good for us. We usually in the past have been 74, 75. So we made a conscious effort to play on the defensive end as well. And I think that's been part of our success.
Interesting things you said there about the inside out. That's kind of old school. And so a lot of teams probably not as familiar with it, even though, I'm old enough to be very familiar with it because that's how I was taught you played basketball. As you started on the inside, made everybody collapse and then pop it outside for a shot. Whereas everybody now, there's a lot of teams that are starting 5 quote unquote guards, putting them all on the outside and just running through the paint to clear space. But I'm being really simplistic. What about the depth, though? Because you got that 5-some. From what I see, you play 7, maybe 8 most games. You don't tend to go much deeper than that, though a lot of players have seen time this season. What's the decision on depth, on how far you go into that bench? And, let me hear that, and then I got a follow-up.
Well, I think that the game dictates to what we do. We're usually going 8, probably 9 deep. Minutes are distributed, depends on how the game goes, how foul trouble is, who's playing well, who's tired. We have a pretty good substitution pattern. But because we're positionless basketball, anybody can play any position. Certain guys aren't going to touch the point guard spot. They know that. But I think that gives us a lot of flexibility in how we can substitute. But usually as the year goes, and unless we're doing like our women do, they go 5 in, 5 out, and which I don't play that way, but they've been successful with it. But I think that, like I said, the game dictates it, but I think that I'm comfortable with anybody that goes in and fulfilling their roles is something that they work hard at. But as a CN, you'll find us, and you're obviously a student of the game and watched a ton of hoops, that as the season goes towards the end of the season and playoffs, everybody in America shrinks their bench because, they want to get the guys in at the key moments. They all do that. The time to see who's good at what they do is first semester, maybe, a tournament game after Christmas break to see what everybody gets. But as the year goes and you get into conference play and games matter more, everybody's shrinking their bench and everybody's trying to see the best combination that's going to work. And it works for us. I think the 8 or 9 man rotation worked for us.
Yeah. So I do find you say shrinking the bench, but at the same time, I know that in the NCAA tournament with media timeouts, you can go with a shrinking bench, but at the same time, you may be in a spot where you need guys to step in because of foul trouble or some injury or something like that. Do you also focus on maybe getting those players some extra time to expand the bench a little bit before you ultimately may have to shrink it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we're given opportunities to get a guy a look and put him in a situation, we had this situation a couple games ago where we had a chance to get some guys in that normally wouldn't get key time in maybe the first half or part of the second half, just to see how they did. And they did well, so I think we try to do that. Our practices are very competitive, Dave. I think that we do 2 things. Sometimes we go like first group against second group, and then we mix it up. We spatter it between, so they're we call it good against good, so we're doing things then and getting guys in that rotation that maybe some guys that wouldn't be playing with the first group or scrimmaging with the first group, and getting that confidence to play with each other, because a lot of it is comfortability with playing with somebody. You know their strengths and weaknesses. Like I told you before, with getting the ball at the right spot, the right time. I think that's what practice does for us, to kind of work on those things. And if you would come and watch our practices are very, very competitive. And that's I think that's a part of our success as well. It's been that way for the last probably 5 years, that we made a commitment to do some things differently. And as a coach, you got to be willing to change. Old school is old school, but then you got to listen to your kids. You got to listen to your kids and say, hey, Kate, what do you think works, and what do you want to work on? And I think that's when we made the move to running more motion and less sets. I think that's when we started to do our turnaround. And our motion offense has a lot to do with my mentor, Coach Jerry Slocum, the former coach at Youngstown State. He came in one day and said, hey, we need to run this. I think you could do really well with this kind of offense. And he tweaked it to our kids, and it's been very, very successful.
This is true. And I'm impressed. 28 years, you certainly have figured out what works well there at Geneva, to know what's going to click for you all and what's going to make you competitive and such. Some coaches go that long and you say be adaptable. Some coaches go that long and they're just stuck in their way. That's how they're going to do things, and be damned whatever. It could be an opinion, it could be something else, whatever the case may be. So I'm impressed that you're willing to pivot to some degree on a lot of that. By the way, I think you mentioned your Geneva squad 5 in, 5 out on the women's side. I think they play like a hybrid of quote unquote the system. It's not a true system.
One of my former players, he's assistant at Grinnell, and we talk frequently. And I said I couldn't play that. I couldn't play that way. I mean, it's tough for me to watch, but it's successful and it works for them and it works for our women. But it's just there's sometimes there's no flow. It's a unique style. Some people like to watch it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But whatever works for us works for us, and we're going to keep on trying to tweak it and get it better.
Well, it's impressive to this point, and I appreciate the insight on it all, including double checking what the Golden Tornadoes was all about, which is just an outstanding logo and mascot and all. I know there's a lot ahead. What's the message to the team here in the final 2 regular season games, trying to lock up a number 1 in the conference, which will have a lot of meaning, trying to keep things obviously at the Fieldhouse?
Well, I think what last night did is I think it's going to help us refocus a little bit. I think that we just have to get back to doing what we were doing, and we really didn't stray that much. Again, it was just decision making and different things, and obviously, Dave, fatigue can do a lot. It's a long season. I mean, it's and you see Division III basketball, and you see all kinds of basketball. It's competitive. It's good basketball. I mean, it's good basketball. It's physical basketball. And I think we have to, get guys rest when they need to get rest. But I think it'll help us to refocus a little bit and make this final push. And hopefully we come out on the better end. I think we will. I mean, we're already locked into a home playoff game. It's just that we want to keep it home the rest of the way until the championship.
Well, I appreciate you giving us the insight and at least letting us shine a light on the Tornadoes on how things are going. I congratulate you on just a great season so far. Look forward to seeing how it all plays out. It was funny because I was watching St. Vincent. I didn't see you all coming. Maybe like most Tornadoes, wasn't paying attention to the warning signs. And then you showed up. Jeff, thanks for the time. Appreciate it as always. We give the coach, guest, whatever I want to try and say the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Well, Dave, I thank you for having me. I think you do a great job, and just looking at your office, you're into hoops all the way, which is fantastic. And I just like for all those young coaches out there, I mean, it's always willing to learn. You got to always be willing to learn. You always got to be getting to clinics and watching, podcasts like this or anything like that. But the thing is, I tell people the day that I'm unwilling to learn any more about basketball is the day I'm going to retire, and I'm not ready to do that. But I think we work harder at our craft. I think it's a great profession. There's a lot of highs and lows, but why I'm in it is I want to mentor young kids in their lives, and that's my sole purpose, and that's why I'm in coaching, and I'm never going to waver for that. But I appreciate you having us. Gives Geneva on the map a little bit, and maybe if you get out this way, come out and see a game. You love to be in the friendly confines of Matheny Fieldhouse. No,
it's on my list, along with a lot of other colleges, but I know I want to get out to that kind of corner of Pennsylvania and corner of Ohio and gets into some games. So we'll work on it. You kind of enticed me now. I want to get out there, especially with the logo. Take care of yourselves. Good luck the rest of the way. Look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having us.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Jeff Sanacero joining us here. Sanacero. I did the I there. Sanacero joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. The second Santa we've had on this show. There's a little trivia question there. Go back and look at some archives of Hoopsville. You'll find her one of our favorite guests from women's basketball back in the day. We'll take another break. When we come back, stick with men's basketball. We go to Nazareth, just kind of northeast of Geneva. Talk to Kevin Broderick about his squad in the Empire 8 race. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro.
That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. We're heading into our last chat of the show, but keep in mind, we'll do a quick wrap-up of the show with some news and notes after this conversation. I want to thank our guests so far, and we'll do a formal thank you at the end. But let's talk men's basketball in the Empire 8, which is going to start looking a little bit different. Kind of back to the conversation we had with Maine Maritime, how the NAC will look different because the SUNYAC's going to look different because the Empire and Liberty and, oh yeah, there's a lot of changes going on in the upper northeastern part of our country in Division III. One thing that certainly seems pretty consistent, when you look at the Empire 8, there are 3 schools for the last few years who have been at the top in men's basketball, just battling it out. It has been St. John Fisher, it has been Utica, it has been Nazareth. Nazareth is one of my favorite guests, Kevin Broderick, who loves his Golden Flyers squad pretty darn well, and I can't blame him a darn bit. He joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about Naz and all things good for his program, who sits on top of the conference, we should point out, in a 3-way tie with the previous 2 teams. Coach, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. As always, I know it's fun. I also know it's stressful to be in a 3-way tie at this point in the season with only a handful of games left. We'll talk about those games and such, but wow, what a race.
Yeah, it's been like this every year, and we've certainly Utica, Fisher, and Alfred's been consistently very good. Cuca's having a very good year, so it's as usual. It's the thing we say the most in our program is it's hard to win, and this year's no different, no matter what night it is.
Yeah, it's always tough, and you guys also have to deal with just whatever weather is going to throw a curveball at all this and change a schedule before you're maybe as you're on a bus for all I know. 16-6 this season. I want to go back quickly. I want to get back to the race in a minute, but let's talk about the 16-6 because since the new year, you guys have been clicking, but before that is where you picked up 5 of those losses. At one point, you were 4-5 on the season, halfway through your trip down south to St. Petersburg, or actually as you were wrapping up the St. Petersburg trip, apologies, you had lost to Dickinson and you had lost to St. John's on that trip. Granted, St. John's a really good basketball team out of the MIAC. We'll have them on a future show. Teams can pack it in at that point, Kevin. And teams can say, this is not going our way, Coach. Thanks so much. What has been the turnaround? Because as I mentioned, you're 12-1, I believe, since that point.
Yeah. We came in Florida. St. John's, very good team. Dickinson, both just simply outplayed us. But I was not discouraged. I was actually in Florida when we were. It's basically over break and we're practicing. I started to see us turn the corner just with practice. And, we have great leadership. We have 2 fifth-year seniors, and I didn't worry for 1 second about packing it in. And even at 4-5, I felt like we were starting to go the right direction. We weren't very good defensively to start the year, but it wasn't effort related. So never felt like never worried for a second about packing it in, but, knew we had a lot of work to do. And, Logan Blankenberg and Jordan Haggard are 5th-year guys playing their best, and they just didn't like the results. So they really did something about it.
What was it that they did about it? I mean, we aren't going to get inside locker information, but what kind of moment is that? What is that kind of situation develop into?
Well, I think as being 5th-year guys, being very intelligent guys, our other captain, Jack Broderick, they've won a lot of games. They've been through the battles, and I think that they just helped guys, again, understand that, the margin between winning and losing is not very big. And, really it was handling the details better. Right. I thought we played really good against St. John's and lost. And, we had all these defensive communication breakdowns. And so I really think our most experienced guys just helped us with the details and embrace the fact that, just get 1 or 2% better every day. I know that's, coaches say those things, but, that's really what when we come to practice, that's really what it's about, right? And can we get just a little bit better every single day? And, those close losses start turning into wins. We had 3 overtime games somewhere, in the last 15 games. And, we just started to, win the close ones for the most part. And I did feel, and I still feel like, I think we've played something like 9 games in the last 21 days. So there's not a lot of practice time, but I love our maturity. And I do think we get a little bit better every practice, which is required, because if you're going to stay the same, you're going to start losing.
I did misspeak. I said 3-way tie with St. John Fisher. I misspoke. They're now actually 2 games behind you at 11-3. You're 13-1. Utica is 11-1 in our standings. I think that's accurate. I think they have a bunch of games to make up. So the race is still on. You're still kind of in a tie with Utica, who you lost to in overtime back on January 9th, but you beat by 12 on the 30th. So that is an advantage. Granted, you got non-conference Morrisville State ahead, then Houghton, and then St. John Fisher. Of course, a rivalry game to wrap things up. There's a lot still at the table. Not only a non-conference game that's important because you want to boost your resume against a good Morrisville State squad, but that St. John Fisher game's lurking, and that's got a lot riding on it more than just pride.
Yeah, we have 3 very challenging games ahead. Morrisville's won 19 of their last 20 games. One of the hottest teams in the country, just a very good team. And Houghton on Saturday is, battling for a spot in our playoffs, and that will not by any stretch be an easy game. And then the rivalry game, which Fisher is a very, very good team that Utica just beat them to change that 3-way tie, or that tie at the top. But they're a very, very good team. So we got 3 very tough games ahead of us.
I find it fascinating that this race always comes down to the end. It's always a battle in this race. And obviously St. John Fisher's there and Utica's. That consistency has been there. What do you make of not only you guys staying consistent, but St. John Fisher staying consistent and Utica staying consistent, that this is always a 3-horse race coming down to the end?
Yeah, and I really strongly believe that the top of our conference has been as good as almost any conference the last 4 or 5 years. And like I said, Alfred has been right there too. And, I wish it wasn't quite like that, but, Fisher and Utica and Alfred, and, they're as good as anybody we play all year. And so the top half of our conference in particular has been extremely good, not just this year, for a bunch of years in a row.
Tell me about this team a little bit, because you've got some upperclassmen who've got some extra years that they've been playing off, but you've also got, you don't have a ton of youth. You've got 1 sophomore on this, or I'm sorry, 1 freshman on this team. You've got a handful of sophomores and a bunch of juniors. You're led by one of those graduate students in Logan Blankenberg at 17 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, also joined by a fellow graduate student in Jordan Haggard, 13 points a game, 5.3. But then it's a sophomore, sorry, can't speak today, in Jalen Savage at 13 points a game and 4.5 boards. So like we've talked with some other teams, you obviously have a ton of this upperclassman leadership, but it's a little bit of the underclassmen starting to show that they're comfortable with this program too.
Yeah, and consistent with some of the other better teams in our league, we've really benefited from the graduate student thing and the COVID year. We've had 9 players take advantage of that, and Jordan and Logan again. They might graduate right at the top of number of wins ever for any Nazareth player. They're right there towards the top, and so we've been able to stay old because of that, which really helps. And Jalen was one of the best freshmen in the country last year, and he continues. He's been a guy that this last 12 games has been really just upped his game at both ends of the floor. And we have a lot of guys who can get 20 points on a given night. So I think that makes us hard to guard with so many guys that are capable of scoring. And like I said, we started the year, it just wasn't up to the standard defensively, but we've gotten better at it.
One of the other guys that jumps out at me statistically has a familiar name. He's fourth on the team in scoring at 9.5 points a game, pulling down 6 boards a contest. Jack Broderick. We should point out a couple of years ago, you got a chance to have all 3 of your sons on the program at the same time. Now you got 2, and Jack and Ryan. We were talking a little bit with Craig Dagan earlier from Maine Maritime about that opportunity, but also about the fact you have it's not just about coaching your son. It's not just about playing one of your sons, but they're making major contributions with the program that you have no choice. You got to put them on the floor, right? What's that dynamic like? What was it like to have all 3?
Yeah, and Jack's my nephew, and my son Ryan he's been a good player for us off the bench. So, yeah, it's 2 years ago we had all 3 of my sons, and it certainly comes with challenges. But all 3 of them and Jack, they love Nazareth, they love basketball, and they're the guys that are in the category of easy to coach because they're always in great shape, they're always ready to play. Jack's a 6'1" guy that has had to play most of the year at center for us, just the way our team is built, and that's a sacrifice, but he's done that all year. He's not playing his best position, but he's playing where his team needs him. So he's had a very good year, and when you're again, all my sons and Jack, they've made it easy for me to coach those guys. And you know what, as every guy on our team this year, we've had it's just been so enjoyable. Our Haggard's done the same thing, where last year we had a great center, John Park, and his backup, Liam Hopwood, tore his ACL. John graduated, so we started the year with no real post players, and Jack and Jordan, and hey, they've just had to sacrifice and play out of position, but we're winning because guys have made sacrifices.
You've also played a lot of players. You play 10 or 11 consistently pretty much every game of the season. We were just talking with Coach Sanacero, who, by the way, has coached the same amount of time you have, 28th season at Geneva. He was talking about, the bench gets a little shorter as you get later in the season, especially you get into conference playoffs and maybe the NCAAs if you're lucky. Can you shorten your bench? Can you keep from going to 10, 11 deep?
Well, I don't want to. And, certainly we try to run have the balance of, our best players are leading the league in minutes, yet we're playing 11 guys. And that's not easy, but we've done that before. I think Luke Inslee, before he got injured, our point guard, was leading the league in minutes. And, but our standard is simply, hey, if you come out and practice every day and you prove that you can help us beat the best teams, we're going to play you. And some years that's 8 guys, some years that's 11 guys. And again, part of our team making a lot of improvement this year. It's not just the starting 5. All those guys on the bench have gotten better and better, and we're going to play them, right? They deserve to play, and I don't want to shorten my bench. I want those guys to keep making me play them, which for the last month or so, they've done that.
Regional rankings came out this week, alphabetical, with non-VRRO. For those at home who don't understand, with the results versus regionally ranked opponents is not in there. So this could change next week. But were you expecting to get regionally ranked? Nobody from the conference is regionally ranked right now.
Yeah. Honestly, I just don't pay that much attention to it. I really don't. When you got 9 games in 21 days, you got much more important things to do. And, I don't believe for a second that there's not an Empire 8 team that's one of the best 6 or 7 teams in our region. I don't believe that, but whatever. Last year we were lucky enough to get 2 teams in the NCAA tournament, but we start every year knowing that, hey, we have to, win the conference tournament to have a, legitimate shot to play in the NCAA tournament. That's how we start each year. But, sometimes you get lucky like last year. Not lucky because Utica certainly earned it, but it's just not something I spend a lot of time thinking about. It's just, hey, let's just win the next game, and those things tend to take care of themselves. And if we're playing our best at the end, then you gotta that really improves your chances to play in the NCAA tournament. But I know those people put a lot of time and effort into doing the rankings and the committee, but it's a hard job. But again, the Empire 8, though our teams are as good as many of those teams ranked, but it's a hard job.
Oops, I hit the wrong button. Hang on. There we go. Quickly, St. John Fisher obviously ahead. I know you're gonna focus on Morrisville State and Haughton. I'm not gonna try and dive into the game that could be SJF, but we've talked about this before on the show. The rivalry. First, it's at their place. Will you walk? Will you take a van? Will you bike? Maybe. Is it weather dependent?
Yeah, I can tell you this: in these budget times, we've never, in my 15 years, taken a bus over there. Right? We're never writing a check for transportation to go a quarter of a mile. But usually the players just drive over there in their own cars, and it literally is, a quarter of a mile. And it's a great rivalry. It's what makes really good rivalry is they're very good. We're very good. The fans, the student body, they get behind it. The alums, it matters. And when we played them here, we had 200 people that got sent home, couldn't get into the gym. And, and we weren't even in session. We weren't even in school yet. So for the semester. So it's, I love the fact that their players get to enjoy that level of excitement. And it's special. It's, certainly our players, love the opportunity to play them in that atmosphere. And again, it's a rivalry built on, we have tremendous respect for, the quality of opponent they are every year.
Well, it's fun to watch from the outside. I know sometimes it can be stressful from the inside. I love the fact that one could walk to this event. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Do we battle over who goes to shop at the local Wegmans afterward?
Yeah, we haven't walked yet because we're in the middle of winter here in upstate New York.
I'm saying someone should. That's all I'm saying.
Students probably do, actually.
Hey, Kevin, I appreciate, for anybody, again, it's a quarter mile. These two schools back into each other. It's just awesome up there in upstate New York, Western New York, whatever you want to call it, kind of on that borderline there. But I love getting the perspective of that, and I love getting a chance to talk NAS and what you all have going on there. I know it's been very consistent, so maybe we haven't gotten you on enough times. We've gotten a little used to it, but congrats on what you've been doing so far in this second half of the season and what you're doing in conference play. I know you got a lot left, and we look forward to seeing how it plays out. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Appreciate your time and all your effort, Dave. I've told you before, right? I know that I have great appreciation for what you do for Division III. It makes the experience for our players better, and I appreciate you repping the NAS jersey in the background too. That's actually the Jeff Van Gundy jersey. He was number 11. So appreciate all you do for Division III and our game.
Well, thanks, Coach. I think you guys made sure I got that. The regular camera shot, you can't see it, folks. He can see it on a camera shot that we're going to use today, but it's not working on our system. It's working for him. It's not working for us. It was my point. But we're going to make sure that gets a little bit more front and center in the future. But it was meaningful for us to get it, and we appreciate it, and it deserves to be up there. Take care of yourselves. Good luck the rest of the way. Look forward to be talking about the NAS, hopefully in March as well. If not, I know I'll catch up with you soon enough.
Thanks, Dave.
Kevin Broderick joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. We'll take a quick break. A little bit of news and notes to get to before we wrap up this show in a few minutes. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more as we wrap up this supersized edition on Thursday after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Making sure my mic's on. Yeah, welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Sorry, sometimes I mispunch that. Really appreciate all our guests tonight on today on the supersized edition of the show on a Thursday afternoon, which reminds me we have a couple schedule notes to get to you. Also, I want to give you a preview of what all our guests saw today on our Zoom calls, because we had to do things a little bit differently. But we'll give you that, plus some other news and notes. First off, again, regional rankings came out this past week on the men's and women's side. They were alphabetical, as expected. You should point out, too, that one of the other things that I was keen on was double checking the numbers in each region. Remember, we'd kind of, in this new 10 region thing, been fluxing on our numbers, at one point maxing out at 10 in a lot of regions. It didn't work, or maxing out numbers anyway. Region 1, for example, has 7 regionally ranked. Region 2 has 6 regionally ranked. Region 3 has 7. Region 4 has 7. Same with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So they've cut down on the number of that's at least on the men's side. I think women's is identical. Nope, they actually have 7 in each region. And granted, there's different numbers there because of some extra women's schools, especially on the East Coast. I think a lot of people felt we were ranking too many teams, and there was a conversation about where to kind of find the sweet spot, as it were. And I think we have found it here. 6 or 7 teams ranked in each region, I think, seems fair. We'll see if it's still too many, but I think it's the right number. Again, they're alphabetical. The Empire 8 not being regionally ranked in Region 3, I think, was interesting. It's not shocking. Again, results versus regionally ranked opponents is going to make a play here. I didn't dive into the numbers to try and read between some of the lines, though some of the guys have on social media. And I haven't had time to read a lot of their notes. I'm hoping, and I'm debating on how we do this. I'm debating about Monday's show is a little bit longer. We usually dive into the top 25. It's either going to be this show or the following week's show. I might bring in kind of our number gurus before we do the Selection Sunday to see what they're reading into things. Now, I know they have their own show like D3 Datacast, and Quillman's got his QCast, so I don't think he dives into that topic all that often. But I'll see if they're interested in coming on and talking about, okay, what are we seeing? And this is why it might be better in a week and a half's time, so we get the first full regional rankings in terms of rankings and data. What are they seeing in terms of trends and nuances and tendencies before we head into the selection Sunday, and we want to make those decisions with one more set of regional rankings. So that is something we're toying with, but that gets me to my schedule. So today was an afternoon show because we have work tonight. Monday will be an afternoon show because we have work that night as well. We'll be on the air. Right now, we'll be on the air at 1 o'clock. We moved today's up to noon because we had missed last Monday's show and there was so much to talk about. Right now, we'll go with Monday at 1 o'clock, probably with the top 25, though it gets a little nerve-wracking when nobody's voted. I got to vote ahead of time, or I should say the poll hasn't come out. And so I don't want to influence any voters who are still putting their ballots together while we're on the air. But we'll cross that bridge. But we'll get some more guests. We're already working on that list. So Monday's show will be at this time, 1 o'clock Eastern time, live. Go for about 2.5 hours. Then next Thursday's show is the big Top 25 announcement show, the Top 25 Seeds show, I should say. Of course, that's a Hoopsville exclusive. That'll be live February 15th. At 7 o'clock. Now, not all portions, I can tell you now, will be live, but we will be live for the most part when we reveal those top 16 on both the men's and women's side. It was a great show last year. Looking forward to doing that again. We'll hear from the committee chairs on some of the decisions that had to be made, etc. But that is coming up a week from today, which scares the living bejesus out of me. A lot of work to do. 7 o'clock Eastern time is when that show will air. Then the following week, which is, sorry, pulling up the calendar so I don't screw up dates here. So the 12th will be on at 1 o'clock, the 15th on at 7. The 19th, we are going to push that show to the 20th. I am traveling back from work that day. And when I did the Red Eye of the year before, it was rough. I don't even remember what we did with that show. I'm pretty sure we were live, but I was a zombie. So we are pushing the 19th to midday on the 20th. So a Tuesday show. And so regional rankings will be coming out about that time. That's why I think it might be interesting to get some of our number crunchers on the show to dive into it. So Scott Peterson, for example, on the women's side, the Snyder brothers on the men's side. Not dive in too deep, but just talk about some generic nuances that we're picking up on, or they're picking up on. Then Thursday the 22nd will be again another 1 p.m. show due to work I have that evening. Then on the 25th, we will do our Selection Sunday show. We may start as early as 5 p.m. on that day. I am going to be working between now and then to do a bunch of interviews to kind of get them ready for that. Sometimes we've had coach interviews, especially automatic bids, that have clinched. I'm not sure I'm going to lean on that. I'm toying with some ideas. And then on the 26th, will be the bracket breakdown show after we've seen everything revealed from the NCAA. Did you follow that all along? We will try and put out an official schedule on social media in the next couple of days so people can follow along. I hope that made sense, et cetera, et cetera. Again, regional rankings came out. Men's and women's side, I didn't see anything that shocked me, but when it comes to alphabeticals, I tend not to try and dive in too deep because we don't have a lot of the data we want to fill in. Next week is really the barometer check of where a lot of teams are sitting. Back to some news and articles that have gone out today. Again, we have this article from Ryan Scott now that's been written regarding pay-per-view, Flow Sports, for example, in coming into Division III. We know Landmark Conference has already signed a deal. We now have word that NewMac will be signing a deal, something that I've been hearing about for a while. I think we will tackle that on Monday's show. And I'll say it on Monday. I'm going to say it now. I am coming from a perspective of being in web streaming since web streaming basically started as audio and then became video. I have been hired by schools to be web streaming consultant / the person who runs their web streaming efforts. I have been hired by major professional organizations to do the same, to be an executive producer and director of web streaming efforts. This is my forte, so I understand the nuances from a school's perspective and from how web streaming works in general. So I think we'll tackle into that. I said a lot over the summer when Landmark had its situation. I'm going to read Ryan's article, obviously in depth. We'll probably have Ryan on the show to talk about it. So Monday's show may not have as many. We're going to have guests. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I'm going to see if Ryan's available to at least chat about his article. I think it's a fascinating one. You should read it for sure. And there's a lot of moving parts. So we'll talk about that and the intricacies of all that on Monday's show, along with some other things too, and obviously get ready for the first full rankings of the regional rankings as well. I think that's it for our news and notes. I'm sure I've missed something in Division III because there's so much going on at all times in Division III. It is very hard to sometimes keep track. We have heard from a lot of individuals about getting a uniform to be in this studio. Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you. So the camera shot that the coaches, our guests, saw today, now this is pre-show, so there is a door open, so bear with me here. But this is, and you're going to see a messy studio to some degree. This is the shot they see. Now, it's frozen for you because it's not working on our end, on the production end, something we're chasing. But you can see some more jerseys there. You see the Nazareth jersey that Coach Broderick was talking about, which was Jeff Van Gundy's number. That's the look. We don't want to go with that look, but we wanted to change up the angle a little bit, kind of go from a further away shot while we're on air with a tighter shot when we're doing interviews, etc. So we got to do some cleaning in here to make that look better, but that's our goal, to move towards that direction of the studio. But that was kind of the shot of coaches saw. So when you heard them make a comment about the studio, that's what it was. If you want to send a jersey, if you want to send paraphernalia that can be in the studio, whether it be on our shelves or on our desk or wherever we put it, contact me. I'll get you my address. We have a bunch of jerseys to add and put up on the wall, rotate our jerseys, etc., clean up some things. We'll work towards a goal of hopefully Selection Sunday, maybe having a revamped look on this program, and look forward to having you all join us for that and to get to see all the hard work. Also got a lot of questions about our fundraiser. Sorry, I don't have that up on the screen. Our goal is a big one. We keep getting questions about this. Here's the deal. There it is. You can give to us via Venmo. You can also give to us via GiveButter. I did not put that on the show page. I will update that accordingly. And there's some other ways of doing it. Contact us if you have another way you want to donate to the program. We certainly appreciate it. We are looking at doing things to grow the show too, and look forward to bringing that conversation up to all of you in the future as well. So there you go. Want to thank all of our guests on the show today. Josh Merkel from Randolph-Macon, Lindsay Schultz from Carroll, Ben O'Brien from Scranton, Craig Dagan from Maine Maritime, Jeff Sanacero from Geneva, and Kevin Broderick from Nazareth. I want to thank all their sports information directors and staffs and offices, etc., for the assistance. Some of them sent us video. Some of them sent us video. Unfortunately, I didn't see, or I couldn't get into the show, or some weird quirk, but we got some highlights in there where we could. They send us pictures. That is very helpful as well. I want to thank all of them for their assistance. A reminder, Monday show, 1 o'clock Eastern time, a little bit different on Monday due to scheduling. Next Thursday is the Top 16 special here on the show. We will be live starting at 7 o'clock on February 15th. You get to see me in a sport coat. That should be a good one. Looking forward to that. We'll be talking to the committee chairs on that program as well, and finding out who the top 16 seeds after week 2 of the regional rankings in men's and women's basketball, i.e. who are in line to likely host, not guaranteed in any way, shape, or form, but likely host right ahead of when deadlines are due for when you get your bids in to host championships. So keep that in mind. And that will wrap things up. Thanks all the staff at D3Hoops.com. Of course, Pat Coleman, Ryan Scott, Gordon Mann, and others. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. Thank you for your support of the show. We really appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we'll get you a schedule of how our shows are being put together the rest of the way. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the Hoopsville Studios. Thank you for your support. If you want to talk Division III basketball, this is a show you got to watch, and we appreciate all of you who did tune in. Remember, coming up Thursday, February 15th, big Hoopsville exclusive, the Top 16 show right here, and we'll look forward to having you join us for that program. You take care, everybody. We'll look forward to catching up with you on Monday.